Yo legends! Welcome back to the channel. Grab your headphones and lock in, because today's story is on another level. Want the next chapter? Drop a comment below, and if the legend continues, I'm bringing it straight to you. Disclaimer: I do not claim ownership of this story. All rights belong to the original creators. Note: I'm constantly tweaking the settings to make it as immersive as possible. The Master of Time. Chapter 81. Killing the chicken to scare the monkey. Demonstration. After showing off her power, Izawa Ikumi said jokingly, "Now that you're back, those people must be scared to death. Scared out of their wits. Humph, it's not that simple. They won't give in until they get to the Yellow River. Driven by their own interests, they won't give in easily." Feng snorted coldly and shook his head. Izawa Ikumi was open-minded and smiled. "No matter how stubborn you are, they can't beat you. It's only a matter of time. Maybe. I hope they know what's happening." Feng rubbed his brow. "There are a lot of Konoha boars. I don't have the time to deal with them one by one." "Do you know who is behind them?" asked Feng Xingye at this time. Upon hearing this, Izawa Ikumi said, "I only know a little. She is not a pushover. She has her own people over the years, and some rumors cannot be avoided by her. That's enough to make an example of them." Ishinoki waved his hand. He couldn't catch them all at once, as that would hurt Konoha's manpower too much. "This is not a good idea and will only hurt yourself." "Indeed." Then, Izawa Ikumi mentioned some of the families behind them. Feng's eyes flickered, and when he heard the name of one of the families, he sneered. "Oh, profit can be very tempting. I thought that big families had good vision and would not be greedy. I didn't expect that." Izawa Ikumi understands this clearly. When the benefits reach 200%, even brothers can be killed. "You're right." Feng's eyes flashed with surprise. "Of course, you've improved your skills and can even say such things now." "Of course." Izawa Ikumi rolled her eyes at him. "After all, you've been training for so many years, it would be strange if you didn't make any progress." Yes. Feng smiled helplessly. Even as the two were chatting and laughing, things were turbulent and undercurrents were surging in the dark corners of Konoha. Due to the fate of Saruto by Hiruzen's Anbu, the news of Hishinoki's return to the village spread instantly. At one time, all the families issued orders at the same time, restraining their members and not causing trouble. When Saruto by Hiruzen received the news, a happy smile appeared on his face. It is still Xiao Feng who can calm the situation. When Feng Xingye returned, the ones who were most worried were the families that were trying to profit from it. Xingye tribe. Hinata Sheng is now 33 years old, more stable than when he was young, and has taken over the position of clan leader. He already had 2 sons, who would later be called Hyuga Hayashi and Hyuga Hayashi. During the meeting, all the clan leaders and family elders were present. After everyone sat down, no one spoke to break the silence. Hinata Sheng sighed and looked at the third elder. "Third elder, are you still going to keep silent? If Lord Hishino really finds out, I'm afraid things won't be simple." After he finished speaking, everyone's eyes turned to him with ambiguous expressions. "HMPH, I don't know what the clan leader is talking about," the third elder said stubbornly with a gloomy face. The second elder snorted coldly, staring at him sharply. "Do you really want to make things worse? Feng is not a good person. Once you take the opportunity to suppress Hinata, we will have no way to stop you. Do you want Hinata to be lonely?" At the end of his speech, the second elder almost roared. His righteous look made the third elder furious, and he spoke with his neck stiff. "Don't talk so high-soundingly. You all know what I did, but no one stopped me, except the clan leader. Didn't you all gain huge benefits? Now that something's happened, you're just shrinking your necks, pushing me out, and getting away with it. That's wishful thinking." The third elder's words caused everyone's expressions to change several times, each with its own merits. Only Hinata Shang and the great elders sat on the high platform, looking as if it had nothing to do with them. The Hyuga clan leader does not have the final say. The other elders each have their own responsibilities. After the death of the previous patriarch, the power of the elders gradually increased, and the patriarch's say naturally became much less. Except for the great elder who lived longer, the other elders were replaced. In comparison, the great elder had more power. Seeing that everyone was arguing fiercely, the great elder coughed lightly, and the scene became quiet in an instant. Seeing this, the great elder nodded, then looked at everyone and said, "With the return of Hoshino Kid, the power structure of Konoha will change drastically. Hinata is dependent on Konoha after all, so we can't make things too awkward." Hinata Shang asked, "What does the great elder mean?" "Return everything you have swallowed over the years." The elder spoke slowly, but without any doubt. Hearing this, the third elder became anxious. "Great elder." The boss looked stern, intimidating without even getting angry. The third elder lowered his head and said unwillingly, but no buts. The great elder waved his hand and made the decision, but then added, "My lineage will help you with a portion of the cost." Hinata Shang looked at the great elder in surprise. This was not a small number. Seeing everyone's surprised expressions, the great elder smiled and said, "If Hinata is gone, what use is money?" As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was filled with admiration. After hearing this, Hinata Shang immediately said, as the clan leader, "I have no choice but to contribute as well." The great elder stroked his beard, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes, and he smiled without saying a word. The rest of the people looked at each other, all with confused expressions. The great elder saw all of this and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. The future of the Zong family is uncertain. Suddenly, there was a knock on the closed door. Dong dong dong, then a childish voice sounded. "Father, can I come in?" Hinata Shang frowned, with a look of dissatisfaction on his face, and was about to yell at him. But he was interrupted by the great elder, who said with a smile to the outside of the door, "Come in, Rizu." After saying that, the door was pushed open and Hinata Hayashi saw his father's dissatisfied expression at a glance. "My dear father." Sayo Rizu bowed politely and then bowed to all the elders of the clan. Although still young, his manners and behavior reveal aristocratic demeanor. "Rizu, what's the matter?" the elder said with a smile. This is the exact opposite of the stern-faced Hinata Mori. Hayashi lowered his head, not daring to look at Hinata Mori, and explained his purpose in a low voice. "It's about Master Hoshino." "Oh, tell me in detail." The great elder exchanged glances with a few people and said, "Not long ago, the Ministry of Commerce brought forward several people, all of whom were heads of small families close to Hinata. But his complexion was listless and his face looked older, giving people the feeling that he was very old." Hayashi glanced at Hinata Mori secretly, and when he saw him nod slightly, he briefly described the general process. Several people looked at each other, and for a moment you could hear a pin drop. Rizu was very tactful and didn't say anything. He just stood there obediently without moving. After a long while, the great elder slowly said, "He is demonstrating, doing it for those who have ulterior motives to see." While speaking, he looked at the third elder meaningfully. "I guess his next step will be to clear away the obstacles with thunderous means." Hinata Mori nodded in agreement. "You don't have much time." The great elder shook his head and said, "Hurry up and send it over." Chapter 82, Hyuga apologizes. The storm is coming. Kid Hoshino's return was like a hurricane, sweeping across the entire Konoha. People with guilty consciences live in constant fear and anxiety, and their days are as miserable as years. And this is exactly the effect that Xingye Feng wants. Only the fear of the unknown can shake people's hearts. Just like that, 3 days passed, and Feng Xingye did not make any movement and went back to his normal life. "Brother, I'm really tired. Can you let your lovely brother rest for a while?" Ashino Teru blinked his big eyes and looked aggrieved. However, Xingye Feng just glanced at him without saying a word, but his meaning was clear. No, if you don't finish the run, you're not allowed to eat. Xingye Feng slowly stated the consequences of not completing the run. Ashino Teru pouted but did not dare to refute. After these 3 days, Ashino Teru finally understood that his brother was truly ruthless and impartial in training and would not slack off at all. Looking at the expression on his brother's face, who wanted to resist but didn't dare to, Xingye Feng shook his head and laughed. According to the time, it's time to come. Xingye Feng muttered to himself towards the door. I've been waiting here since early morning, as if I was expecting guests to arrive today. After a moment, the muttering turned into a smile and he waited quietly. Soon, a steady voice came. Master Hoshino Hinata Mori is here to visit. The corners of Xingye Feng's mouth curled up, then disappeared, and he pretended to have just woken up and walked forward to open the door. The head of the Hyuga family must have something important to tell you since he came here so early in the morning. Ashino Kid rubbed his sleepy eyes and yawned. Hinata Sheng's mouth twitched, and he complained in his heart, "Don't you know why I'm here?" But he looked extremely respectful, even bowing slightly, and said, "Please forgive me for disturbing your sweet dream." Seeing this, Hoshino Teru's eyes widened and his mouth opened slightly. Wow, so awesome. The initial resentment disappeared instantly and his eyes turned into admiration. This is the Hyuga clan, a big clan in Konoha, and even the head of the clan is so respectful. Seeing this, Hoshino Teru silently threw away his lazy thoughts and started practicing hard. I can't afford to offend you, but can I not hide from you? No need to be so polite. I was just talking, don't take it to heart. Xingye Feng waved his hand magnanimously and invited him in. Yes. Hinata Mori naturally walked down the stairs and then said, "The return of Lord Hoshino is a blessing for Konoha." Hoshino Feng turned around and looked at him with a smile, first positive and then negative, right? Hinata Sheng was very nervous when he was looked at. He took a deep breath and said through gritted teeth, "Hinata knows that I can't hide the matter from you, so I come here to apologize." As he said that, he actually knelt down in front of Xingye Feng. Such decisiveness made Xingye Feng look at him differently. This was definitely not something that had been discussed before. The clan leader also has to save his face. Oh, the ones who caused trouble before don't count. Hinata Mori must have acted on his own initiative. Hoshino Kid didn't speak immediately, and Hinata Mori remained in his posture without getting up. The atmosphere was stagnant for a moment. The heavy atmosphere made Hinata Sheng sweat on his forehead. The cold gaze pierced his back, making his whole body cold. After a long while, Xingye Feng said quietly, "If admitting mistakes is useful, then what is the point of the security team?" Just one sentence doubled the pressure on Hinata Shen, and he immediately shouted, "Hinata, return all the profits." "That's all?" Hoshino Kid said expressionlessly, his voice as cold as a machine. The mountain-like pressure was all on Hinata Sheng, making it almost impossible for him to breathe. Seeing this, Hyuga Mori said with difficulty, "In addition, within 2 years, 30% of the income of Hyuga industry will be handed over to Konoha." As soon as the words fell, the terrifying pressure dissipated instantly, like a receding tide. Then, Hoshino Kid seemed like a different person, and helped Hinata Mori up with a smile on his face. "Oh, it seems that the Hyuga clan leader is very sensible, good. Hinata Mori forced a smile, but his heart was bleeding. The Hyuga family was able to become a large clan, with its businesses spread across the Land of Fire, just like the Senju and Uchiha families. The 30% profit almost caused Hyuga to suffer heavy losses. But he had to do this. Just now, if he hadn't said this, Hinata's position would definitely be in jeopardy in the future. Hoshino Kid can support other families in minutes. This was unacceptable to Hinata. "It's my duty, to contribute to Konoha." Hinata Mori just wanted it to be over quickly and didn't want to stay any longer. "Lord Hoshino is busy, so I won't bother you anymore." Seeing this, Xingye Feng knew that it was time to stop, so he let the people leave. After watching Hinata Sheng leave, Hashino Feng slowly returned to his chair. Xiao Hui, I still like the way you act coquettishly. Hashino Teru immediately ran to his side like a dog and massaged his shoulders and legs. Brother, it's my fault for not understanding me. Please be more tolerant, okay? With a changing expression, Xingye Feng rubbed his head vigorously and said, okay, but there won't be a next time. Upon hearing this, Hashino Teru immediately nodded firmly. After sending his brother away, Xingye Feng continued to sit on the chair for the entire day. At nightfall, Xingye Feng looked at the empty door and shook his head. Alas, you are just relying on luck. If the tiger doesn't show its might, people will think I'm easy to bully. There was a fierce light in Xingye Feng's eyes, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly. If you don't want the face I give you, then don't blame me for not giving you a chance the next day. Kid Hashino asked Danzo to gather all the clan leaders of Konoha to hold a meeting in the Hokage building. After hearing the news, one sentence came to everyone's mind. The storm has begun. Among them, only Hinata Mori was relieved. Fortunately, he visited in advance and the disaster did not affect Hinata. An hour later, all the Konoha high-level officials arrived. Even Uzumaki Mido was invited by Hashino Kid. Everyone, Konoha has been very lively in the past few years since I was away. After looking around, Xingye Feng spoke leisurely, his tone very casual. But everyone present was startled and said the opposite of what they meant. A few days ago, the head of the Hyuga clan came to visit me and we talked a lot, which touched me deeply. This sentence made Hinata Sheng look surprised. Why did he have a role to play? Everyone was worried and lowered their heads, not daring to look him in the face, like cowards hiding in their shells. Seeing that the atmosphere was almost set, Xingye Feng's tone instantly dropped to the bottom, exuding a chill. But what makes me sad is that Konoha has not made much progress in the past few years. It has almost stood still and even slightly regressed. I wonder if you can give me an explanation. When Uzumaki Mido saw that no one dared to speak, the corners of his eyes curved into crescent shapes, and his mood could be seen. After Tabarama left, there was no one to take the lead, and the ninja clan, which had been suppressed, began to become arrogant. Konoha was in a state of chaos, and the people were living in misery. Even if she wanted to change, she couldn't beat four hands with two fists. Now that Xingye Feng is back, everyone is like quails, which is really gratifying. Chapter 83: A combination of kindness and power. The main theme of silence still echoed among the crowd, and no one dared to speak. Hashino Feng glanced around and tapped his knuckles on the table, making a clear sound. Are you all mute? Why are you so active when it comes to benefiting the family? The sarcasm covered everyone. As for me, I was born in the first year of Konoha and grew up with Konoha. When my teacher was alive, he asked me to take good care of Konoha and not let those with evil intentions harm Konoha. Xingye Feng's eyes jumped back and forth between the few people with a smile, and his eyes were so cold that people lowered their heads and dared not look directly at him. Who do you think could be that person? Is it an Uchiha? Or a Hyuga? Or maybe someone else? Hinata Mori and Uchiha Kitajima both trembled in fear. Danzo and Hiruzen felt very happy when they saw these clan leaders who usually showed off their power. All the frustrations from these years were released all at once. Lord Hashino, seeing that no one spoke, Nara Shikaichi, Konoha's think tank, spoke with a stiff upper lip. Senior Shikaichi. Seeing that it was Nara Shikaichi, Hashino Kid immediately became friendly. Judging from the existing information, the pig, deer, and butterfly tribes are the most peaceful. Nara Shikaichi waved his hands repeatedly, sweat on his forehead. No, Master Hashino, just call me Shikaichi. I was just kidding. Although the other person was polite and didn't seem to be fake, he couldn't take it seriously. Okay. Xingye Feng didn't force it and said, Lu Yi, do you have anything to say? Nara Shikachi swallowed and said under pressure, I am to blame for Konoha becoming what it is now. Oh. Xingye Feng supported the table with both hands and asked with a puzzled look on his face, what does this have to do with Lu Yi? Could it be that the Nara clan is also involved? No, no, no. Nara Shikata was shocked and waved his hands quickly. Absolutely not, absolutely not. Then why do you say that? As the leader of the Jonin squad, I have failed in my duty, Nara Shikachi said with his head down. Xingye Feng narrowed his eyes and said with a smile, it seems that Zhu Ludi doesn't intend to protect himself anymore. When Narashika heard this, cold sweat broke out on his back and his heart was beating wildly. These words were like adding fuel to the fire for the three tribes. To put it nicely, it's called self-preservation. To put it bluntly, it's just watching the fire from the other side of the river. Without waiting for him to explain, Xingye Feng stood up and looked at them calmly. The current ninja world model has basically taken shape, with the 5 major ninja villages jointly occupying most of the resources. The previous ethnic wars are gone, and it has evolved into a war between villages. If the big tree of Konoha falls, it will not be easy for you families that depend on Konoha. There was a pause of several seconds between words, and the quiet conference room was filled with the sound of disordered breathing. Seeing this, Xingye Feng raised the corner of his mouth and continued, since you don't obey Danzo, then I will be the 3rd generation Hokage. What do you think? His tone was very light, as if he was asking for everyone's opinions, but as soon as he finished speaking, everyone echoed him. I agree. I agree. That's right. I support Lord Hoshino to become the 3rd Hokage. If anyone goes against Master Hoshino, I will be angry with him. For a moment, the meeting room was in chaos, and everyone spoke so eagerly for the first time. It seems that if you are a step slower you will be liquidated. Danzo and Hiruzen, who saw this scene, were both extremely envious. When the two of them were in charge of Konoha, they were almost in name only, and their orders could not be passed down to the village at all. Now, just by asking, Feng Xingye gained everyone's approval. No wonder Sensei Tabarama insisted on letting Kid Hoshino serve as the 3rd Hokage. With such means and strength, the other two of them are ashamed of themselves. The wind direction suddenly changed. Nara Shikachi was secretly shocked, but looking at the excited expressions of the crowd, he couldn't help but admire them. The 2nd generation master has a very sharp vision. Xingye Feng let them talk for a while before he pressed his hand lightly, and the voices immediately subsided. Since everyone agrees, then it will be easy. Before, I spoke with my strength, but now I will speak in the name of Hokage. A cunning look flashed across his eyes, like a sly cat. I hope some people will take the initiative so I don't have to go to each person to talk to them. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces froze, and there seemed to be a cracking sound. Seeing their expressions, Xingye Feng's eyes flashed with ferocity and his voice couldn't help but become low. Why? Are you having any trouble? He glanced at them one by one with a kind look, and nodded with satisfaction when he saw that they looked defeated. Since you have no objection, then let's do it this way. Oh, Danzo and Hiruzen are in charge of this. I don't want to hear that one was left out. Hoshino Kid handed the matter over to Danzo. After all, this was his expertise and it also allowed him to vent his anger. It will definitely be done beautifully. Danzo emphasized at the end. Okay, Nara dear one stays here, and the rest can go home. Remember to hurry up. Hoshino Kid finally smiled at everyone. A meeting with the attitude of hello, hello, everyone is hello came to an end. Before leaving, Hiruzen and Danzo looked at each other, both grinning, looking extremely happy. They seemed to be a little lightheaded even when they were walking, and it was foreseeable that those people would face some difficulties. After everyone left, Nara Shikachi was the only one left. He looked calm on the surface, but he was actually very scared. After all, everyone has left and you are the only one left, and what just happened can't be a good thing no matter how you think about it. Lu Yi, Xingye Feng called out, bringing him back to his senses. Lord Hoshino, why do you want me to stay here? Nara Shikaichi asked boldly. I'm sorry for offending you just now. Please don't mind. Unexpectedly, Xingye Feng apologized to him instead. This frightened Nara Shikaichi so much that he quickly said, Master Hoshino is doing this for Konoha. Shikaichi doesn't care. I said this, and I really thought so in my heart. Kid Hoshino must have deep feelings for Konoha. What was said to him before was actually a warning to him, and Ju Ludi was indeed negligent in his duties. Hearing this, Hoshino Kid smiled even more. I'm relieved if you think so. The Nara clan has been providing advice to the village since the founding of Konoha and has made great contributions. You three tribes are also the most peaceful, saving me a lot of worry. In response to Kid Hoshino's praise, Nara Shikaichi breathed a sigh of relief. Having said that, Jaludi has been removed from the danger list. However, I hope that the Nara clan will always keep their original intentions and not go astray. This is a reminder and a warning. What I mean is, as long as you follow the Hokage closely, nothing will happen to you. If you have second thoughts, of course. Nara Shikaichi nodded slightly and assured. That's good. Xingye Feng said with a smile. Okay, that's all. You decide the time for the Hokage inauguration ceremony. I understand. Nara Shikaichi straightened his expression and said seriously, Chapter 84 The Third Hokage. Looking at Nara Shikaichi's departing figure, Ashino Kid couldn't help but chuckle. Then he turned to look at Uzumaki Mido, who had been sitting there without leaving. Master, is there anything else? Uzumaki Mido shook his head and smiled. I haven't seen you for a few years. You have matured a lot. Mature? Xingye Feng muttered to himself. During these 8 years, he traveled in the dragon veins, comprehending the laws of space all day long without stopping for a single day. Who knows how boring it is to practice and how difficult it is to gain enlightenment? No, it's just that I've seen it more and thought about it more, so I'll naturally get it. Thinking of this, Xingye Feng shook his head and said sadly with a hint of fatigue. Uzumaki Mido was startled and looked at his face carefully, finding that he was less innocent and more stable. She sighed. Thank you for your hard work. You are the one who will clean up this mess in Konoha. Hearing this, Xingye Feng grinned and said, It's not hard. This is where I grew up. How can I just ignore it? Uzumaki Mido nodded and said nothing more. She knew that Hoshino Kid could know when to stop. He immediately changed the subject and started talking about him. The position of the third Hokage has been vacant for the past few years. Monkey and Danzo have been constrained and have had their own thoughts, but they couldn't stop it in the end. Xingye Feng chuckled. It's normal. Everyone has selfishness. It can't be eliminated. Just let everything go. You're quite open-minded. Uzumaki Mido sighed. I hope both of them can let it go. Hoshino Kid smiled but said nothing. Half a day later, the news that Hoshino Kid became the third Hokage swept the streets and alleys. When the older generation heard the news, they all cheered with joy. The younger generation knew very little about it, but soon news spread about Hoshino Kid, the first Hokage's disciple. He defeated the Raikage, saved the situation from collapse, made the Hidden Cloud Village withdraw its troops and negotiate, founded the Ministry of Commerce, and integrated the chaotic situation. These events instantly made the long-silent Konoha boil again. Brother, are you going to be Hokage? After returning home, Hoshino Teru couldn't wait to ask, his little eyes full of excitement. The news spread very quickly, and Xingye Feng was slightly surprised for a moment. It seems like someone fanned the flames. Well, the ceremony will probably be held soon. Hoshino Kid nodded in acknowledgement. Wow. Upon hearing that, Hoshino Teru immediately jumped up and down, shouting loudly. If you didn't know, you would think he had become Hokage. Xingye Feng shook his head helplessly. His mentality was nothing more than my brother became the Hokage, so from now on I will be the Hokage's younger brother. Unfortunately, this is not an honor, but a burden to him. Words and looks can kill. Excessive expectations can break a person's spine. Brother. At this moment, Hadake Sakumo appeared in front of the two of them. Brother Sakumo. When Hoshino Teru saw Hadake Sakumo, he immediately greeted him, and even his arrogance just now subsided a little. The reason is that when Hoshino Teru was a child, he was trained by Hadake Sakumo. He was so ruthless and impartial that Hoshino Teru was like a mouse seeing a cat, trembling in the corner. He has had a psychological trauma towards Hadake Sakumo since childhood. Congratulations, brother, for becoming the third Hokage. Hadake Sakumo congratulated sincerely. He is now the captain of the Ambu, well informed, and came here as soon as he received the news. Ishino Kid glanced at Hoshino Teru, who was shrinking his neck, and said, it seems that the news has spread to Konoha. I guess there will be many more people coming next. Yeah. Hadake Sakumo nodded. He is the official Sandame Hokage after all. Said Cow Cow, Cow Cow. Xingye Feng's heart moved, and he looked outside the door, then felt helpless. Did you discuss this? HMPH, it's just a coincidence. Uchiha Wang would not admit it and said with his head turned away. Izawa Ikumi glanced at him and directly exposed his cover-up. What a duplicity guy. He was very nervous just now, wondering if he should bring some gifts. You. Uchiha was furious and glared at him. Izawa Ikumi simply ignored him and didn't even look at him. Seeing this, Xingye Feng couldn't help but hold his forehead helplessly. You two are really a pair of happy enemies. Who is her enemy? The two said in unison, even their speaking frequency was the same. As the two looked at each other, Uchiha Wang's face turned red and he was the first to retreat. Xingye Feng was stunned for a moment, then he showed a meaningful smile and whispered to himself, Tisk tisk, I didn't expect it, I didn't expect it. What didn't you expect? Hinata Kazumi tilted her head in confusion. Nothing. Xingye Feng shook his head and didn't intend to expose it. Now was not the right time. His eyes rolled, and then he looked at Fujito Takatora with a smirk, and whispered, Takatora, do you have someone you like? Uchiha's brain worked quickly and he immediately realized that there was something behind what Hoshino Kid said. His face suddenly turned red and he lowered his presence. No one noticed anything wrong. Fujito Takatora's face turned red instantly and he shook his head repeatedly, only glancing at Kazumi out of the corner of his eye. Hisakino Kid took a breath, looked at Gaofu on the left, and looked at Kazumi on the right. This looks like another couple. Wow, the four of them digested it among themselves, but it seems like those two were just wishful thinking. It seems that Kazumi and Yumi are unaware that they have been targeted. Xingye Feng's gaze was too scorching, making both of them confused. Izawa Ikumi's mouth twitched and she shouted, What are you looking at? Can the Hokage do whatever he wants? Xingye Feng coughed several times, glanced at Fujito Takatora and Uchiha Nozomi, and said, That's impossible. I'm just thinking about something. Yes, I'm just thinking about something. He had a serious expression on his face, as if it were really like that. But these words still made the two of them suspicious. Fortunately, 3 disciples of Xingye Feng came over and interrupted the weird atmosphere. Teacher. X3 Xingye Feng looked at the 3 people and sighed, time flies so fast. The 3 little kids have grown up so big. Aren't you talking nonsense? It's been 8 years. How can you not grow up? Yu Guangyi was quick-witted and spoke without thinking. He said whatever he thought. Yu Hai Shinku and Midarai Shishao looked at each other, both helpless. He's so rude when we meet, he's just asking for a beating. As expected, veins bulged on Xingye Feng's forehead, and he immediately punched him on the head. Boom! Hoshino Feng blew his fist, and a huge bag appeared above Moonlight Knight's head. Xiao Yi, are you feeling itchy? Do you want me to help you loosen it up? Xingye Feng said with a smile. A chill that penetrated into the spine surged from the bottom of Moonlight Knight's heart. He immediately smiled apologetically and tried to please. Humph. Seeing this, Xingye Feng snorted coldly, then looked at them and said, "We've already met, let's all go back. Do you have so much free time?" After a pause, he looked back to the Moonlit Knight. "Don't think I don't know what you are planning. Even if you are a disciple of the Hokage, you can't let your guard down. Otherwise, I will let you feel the pain of your childhood again." Moonlight Knight nodded hurriedly like a chicken, and then ran away. Seeing this, the other two had no choice but to follow. "This brat has a lot of tricks up his sleeve." Feng Xingye said this, but he was not really angry. When one person succeeds, the whole family will benefit. This saying is most appropriate at this time. Chapter 85 Nara and 039's questions. The calm lake surface began to ripple, and the news that the third Hokage was keyed Hashino spread among the ninjas over time. In the Hidden Cloud Village, the newly appointed third Raikage had a solemn expression on his face as he looked in the direction of the Fire Country and muttered to himself, "Everything that Union has lost will be repaid in kind." As he spoke, powerful chakra burst out from his body, forming a sky-high momentum that caused the surrounding walls to shake and sand and rocks to fly. In a flash, it disappeared. The third Kazekage and the third Mizukage were both shocked when they heard this, and felt a great deal of pressure. This is bad news for other countries, but it is a cause for great joy for Konoha and the Land of Fire, the land of the Nara clan. Nara Shikachi was worrying about the timing and details of the third Hokage's inauguration. Since that day, his position has changed. He no longer pretends to be deaf and dumb, and wholeheartedly assists Xingye Feng. Based on their past interactions, he knew the Hokage's temper and character very well. He was a man of his word, and his skills were not much worse than Tabarama's. If we continue to stand idly by, the day of our genocide will not be far away. Oh, this is difficult. Nara Shikachi sighed secretly. His hair fell all over the floor because of the inauguration ceremony. The inauguration ceremony of each actor is not that simple, it is not just a formality. Speech is also a key step. How to give a speech and how to speak are both very debatable matters. If you mess it up, it will be a huge joke. The content of the speech is of utmost importance to the Hokage, as it reflects Konoha's future policies and goals. Nara dear wrote a speech half guessing and half thinking. After pondering for a moment, he felt that it was inappropriate and made some minor changes. This is just a rough draft. The final decision will still need to be made by Feng Xingye. He dare not interfere. "Oh, please, I can't slack off anymore." After revising and saving the manuscript, Nara Shikazu laid his head on the table. His decadent look was very consistent with the temperament of the Nara clan. "Dad, what are you worried about? You look depressed." Saya Aluji knelt opposite Lui and asked casually. "My free days are gone," Nara Shikachi said resentfully. "Oh." Nara Shikaku raised his eyelids, and then nothing more happened. Nara Shikachi looked at his son speechlessly. Shouldn't he comfort him at this time? At this time, Akimichi Tofu and Yamanaka Matochi arrived, greeted Nara Shikaku familiarly, and sat down casually. Nara Shikachi saw that the two men seemed to be hesitant to speak, and he knew what they were here for. He turned around and gave Shikaku a hint with his eyes. Nara Shikaku's wisdom was evident since he was young. Knowing that the three were going to discuss something, he found a reason to leave. "Luyi, you look listless." Yamanaka Yuani looked at his expression and found that he had heavy dark circles under his eyes. Nara Shika scratched his head and grumbled, "I can't help it. Hokage-sama has given me everything to do, so I naturally have to pay attention to it." The speaker may not have intended it, but the listener may have taken it to heart. When talking about Hashino Kid, Yamanaka Genish's expression changed slightly. When the Nara deer saw this, he knew what his old friend was worried about, so he comforted him. "Yuane, you worry too much. The Hokage-sama is not what you think. Kimichi Norifu, who had been eating snacks, also agreed. As Tabarama's disciple, he naturally had a relationship with Hoshino Kid. I also have some understanding of it, so I naturally won't worry. Yes, when the teacher was alive, he told us that as long as it is not a matter of principle, generally nothing will happen. After hearing what the two said, the worry on Yamanaka Janish's face disappeared and his expression relaxed. We, Inoshikichu, support the Hokage, so there's no need to worry too much. Hokage-sama is showing his goodwill by entrusting the inauguration ceremony to me. Nara Shikaichi saw it more deeply than they did. The fact that Hoshino Feng handed the ceremony over to him implied trust in it, and they just had to follow closely. That's true. I was worrying too much. Yamanaka Yuani suddenly realized, and then said with gloating, I guess other families are not so lucky. I heard that the Hyuga family not only gave back all the profits they had swallowed, but also provided additional compensation. Even the clan leader came to apologize in person. When Narashika heard this, his expression changed, and then he shook his head and sighed. There are many smart people in the world. Hinata Mori has a long-term vision. This way, Hinata will have nothing to worry about. Shan Zhangyuan was stunned when he heard this and asked, What do you mean? Hinata was so decisive and was the first to come and apologize. First of all, she has already won in terms of impression. Plus, she has added extra compensation. Hokage will definitely look at her with a higher regard. This retreat not only provides Hinata with a protective amulet, but also leaves a good impression on the Hokage. It can be said to be very smart. The analysis confused the two people who were sitting and listening. They could understand the beginning, as their IQ was not bad, but they became more and more confused as time went on and only had a vague understanding. Looking at the two confused people, Narashika felt even more tired. This team is not easy to lead. It's okay. All you need to know is that Hinata made a lot of money. Nara Shikaichi didn't intend to explain anymore. There was no point in going deeper. Adding icing on the cake is far less effective than helping someone in need. There should be a sequence in admitting mistakes. Seeing that Nara Shikaichi was not going to say anything, they stopped asking. The Nara clan has always been responsible for the brainpower, and all they have to do is follow behind and cheer. On the street, a white-haired young man with a lewd look on his face was crouching in a secluded place and peeping into the bathhouse. He had a lustful look on his face and kept commenting, his saliva almost dripping. While he was immersed in admiring the beauty, a murderous intent appeared behind him, and his teeth were grinding. Come here! The roar went straight into the sky and could be heard in most of Konoha. Tsunade walked towards Jiraiya with murderous intent on her face. Tsunade, I'm just looking for material. I don't have any bad intentions. You have to believe me. Jiraiya hurriedly defended himself. But Tsunade would not believe his lies. If Jiraiya could change his peeping habit, she would not gamble anymore. Then, boom, the powerful punch knocked Jiraiya directly into the wall, instantly creating a big hole. Orochimaru watched this scene expressionlessly, but his stern face couldn't help but twitch. After throwing this punch, Tsunade felt relaxed all over. As expected, when it comes to Jiraiya, it's better to take action and never say nonsense. If you dare to peek again, I will make you regret it for the rest of your life. Tsunade said viciously to Jiraiya, who was grimacing in pain. Hiss, Tsunade, can you be gentler? It hurts. Jiraiya complained. Tsunade snorted, you deserve it. Orochimaru, why didn't you stop him? Jiraiya looked at Orochimaru again, trying to get help. Haha, you'd better behave yourself. You're going to see the Hokage soon. If he finds out, you'll be in trouble. Orochimaru ignored his words and said instead. Hearing this, Tsunade glared at Jiraiya again, grabbed his ear, and put him under her nose to watch. Orochimaru chuckled and followed. Chapter 86 Orochimaru and -039's Desire. Knock, knock, knock. A series of knocks on the door sounded. Xingye Feng yawned and said, "Who is it? Disturbing my lunch break." Click. Xingye Feng rubbed his eyes and opened the door. "Brother Feng." Tsunade greeted happily. The sleepiness of Xingye Feng disappeared without a trace. "Little Tsunade, you've grown so big." Tsunade said unhappily, "Humph, I'm not little anymore." Yes, Tsunade." Ashina Keed found it a little funny and still a little childish. "Jiraiya, your face." Hashino Feng turned his eyes and looked at Jiraiya in surprise. "Wow, Lord Hashino, you have to control Tsunade. She's too violent." Jiraiya cried, his tone aggrieved. Orochimaru moved aside calmly, his eyes looking at his nose and his nose looking at his heart, as if he didn't know him. Tsunade clenched her fists and threatened with force. "Jiraiya, it seems that I was too lenient." "Who told you to talk nonsense?" "Why did I talk nonsense? Did I say something wrong?" Perhaps because of the presence of Kid Hashino, Jiraiya became bolder and bolder. Usually, he would take the beatings in silence. Upon hearing this, Tsunade was furious. She rolled up her sleeves and was ready to beat him up, determined to give him a lesson that would hurt him to the bone. Hashino Kid shook his head, rolled his eyes, and said teasingly, "Hitting is love, scolding is love. Tsunade, you are not in love with Jiraiya, are you?" Shocking words. The three of them stood there in astonishment. Jiraiya reacted the fastest and immediately jumped up and said, "How is it possible? How could I like this violent girl? Unless the Sage of Six Paths is alive, I will never like her even if I die." Tsunade's eyes were blazing with fire, and she immediately started to discuss physics. "What? You dare to say that again?" Jiraiya stiffened his neck and ran out stubbornly, then turned back to continue provoking Tsunade, looking like he was enjoying it. "Say it 100 times." Ashino Kid looked at the two people going away and was immediately amused. "These two people are quite interesting, right, Orochimaru?" "Hee hee." Orochimaru forced a smile on his cold face, which was uglier than crying. Hashino Feng looked at him. Uncle Snake was more normal at this time than he was in his later years. "You three came here just to say hello, right?" asked Xingye Feng. Orochimaru said, "It's me who has something I want to ask Master Hashino." Xingye Feng raised an eyebrow. "Tell me about it." After a pause, Orochimaru said seriously, "Life in this world is so fragile, why do we still try so hard to live?" Xingye Feng narrowed his eyes. "Why do you think so?" Orochimaru's expression darkened, as if he was recalling something bad. "When I was a child, I witnessed the death of my parents. I felt like the sky had fallen and I was in a daze all day long. After that, I kept trying to find the meaning of life, but I found that there was death all around me. I was very confused." Ashino Kid looked at Orochimaru, who had a confused look in his eyes, and was silent for a long while before answering him. "You asked a question that confused me." A gleam appeared in Orochimaru's eyes and he looked at him expectantly. "This question is so broad that it is hard to explain it in one sentence, but I can tell you that life goes hand in hand with death, and neither can exist without the other." As he spoke, Xingye Feng lightly tapped his forehead with his finger, and a ray of faint light suddenly poured into his brain. Orochimaru's thoughts drifted far away, and he followed the faint light back to the past. He saw himself as a newborn and the baby crying, heralding the beginning of life. The mother had a loving look on her face as she looked at the little one and whispered softly, "Mother." Orochimaru's vague childhood memories emerged, tears uncontrollably welled up in his eyes, and he muttered to himself. The scenes of his childhood played out before his eyes. Until his parents passed away, everyone has 7 emotions and 6 desires. Even Orochimaru. His heart is aching and his emotions can't help but flow out. Reason told him that these were all in the past and not worth remembering. But his instinctive emotions made him cry. Orochimaru reached out his trembling hand, wanting to touch the mother in his memory. But memories are just memories. As my trembling fingers passed through my mother's chest, everything seemed so unreal. Boom! Just as he was stunned, a loud explosion pulled him back to reality. Outside, Orochimaru cried silently, bean-sized tears slid down his cheeks, and his dull eyes came back to his senses. What you desire in your heart should be love, the love of your parents. Xingye Feng's voice suddenly sounded. Orochimaru remained silent and touched his heart. The warm heart was beating strongly. It was given by his mother. You asked about the meaning of life, but I think it should be this. There's nothing wrong with immortality. If you want to pursue it, it has nothing to do with me. It's all about time and fate. Those plain words went deep into Orochimaru's heart, and a seed was planted in his heart. Orochimaru wiped the tear marks on his face and smiled with relief. Thank you. This thank you was filled with his greatest respect. It's okay, they are all children of Konoha, and it's what I should do. Hashino waved his hand and looked at him gently. This is a talent among talents. It takes many years for a technological genius to appear in the ninja world. It is very important for the future development of Konoha, so of course we must take good care of it. Technology changes life, but first of all, we need to change the people who influence technology. In the 27th year of Konoha, the weather was sunny and the temperature was moderate. A joyous atmosphere filled the entire Konoha village, and every household had a happy look on their faces. Because today is the inauguration ceremony of the third Hokage. The villagers gathered in the Hokage building, and the place was filled with people, a huge crowd. A moment later, Xingye Feng's figure slowly walked out, instantly causing a scream. Hashino-sama! Hashino-sama! Wow, wow, wow! Look here! Here! Hashino, wearing the Hokage robe, looked at the enthusiastic villagers and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Standing in the Hokage building and looking down at everyone, a feeling of pride and ambition arose spontaneously. Everyone! Xingye Feng raised his hand and suppressed it. There was silence in an instant, but the soft words rang in everyone's ears. The warm and gentle face is like a breeze, giving people hope. Everyone looked up at him with admiration in their eyes. Behind Xingye Feng, the clan leaders all had solemn expressions. Even Jiraiya, who was usually jumpy, became quiet. All of Konoha's high-ranking officials gathered together and were present. Looking at Hashino in front of them, Hashino Yoda and Sakura Kinomoto were all filled with emotion. The little kid who used to act like a spoiled brat with them is now able to shoulder the responsibility of Konoha. Uzumaki Mido looked at the high-spirited Hashino and couldn't help but recall the past. It seems that Hashirama back then was the same as he is now, the center of everyone's attention. Wow, so awesome! Hashino opened his mouth wide, looking surprised. I want to be a Hokage in the future. The little guy swore secretly in his heart. Chapter 87 The Third Hokage Inauguration Ceremony. Hashino Feng looked around, his heart pounding, and said, It has been 27 years since the first Hokage pacified the troubled times and founded Konoha village. Konoha has gone from being a wasteland in ruins to a peaceful and prosperous place today, all thanks to everyone's struggle and hard work. The hard work of the second Hokage has laid a solid foundation for Konoha. The quality of life is improving day by day, and a peaceful atmosphere permeates the Konoha village. His voice was slow and low, carrying the accumulation of years and recollections of the past. But it makes people feel a sense of belonging and pride. The sonorous and powerful language stirs people's emotions like a war drum stirring in people's ears. People's faces gradually turned red and their eyes flashed with excitement as if they saw their past efforts and persistence as well as their hope and longing for the future. The figure of Hashino was reflected in his eyes, and his inner admiration became more fanatical and firm. Long live the first generation. Long live the second generation. Long live Lord Hashino. I don't know who started it, but someone shouted excitedly. It triggered a chain reaction, with waves of praise getting louder and louder. The atmosphere on the scene was boiling, and the momentum seemed to overturn the sky. Xingye Feng raised his hand and pressed it down again. His voice gradually calmed down, and he continued. I was born in the first year of Konoha, the year it was founded. I grew up with Konoha and was later accepted as a disciple by the first Hokage. That was my most relaxing and warmest time. Tears welled up in Hoshino Kied's eyes and her voice began to sound sad. A feeling of sadness spread, and people seemed to see the figures of the master and disciple running in the sunset. Emotions are contagious, and there were sobs and tears flowing from the scene. The joyful atmosphere suddenly changed, but Hoshino Kied then raised his voice and looked solemn. But time is ruthless. It took my teacher away. Before he left, he told me that we should look forward in life and sadness is only temporary. The suffering will eventually pass, and the future is in your hands and mine. And today, I will inherit my teacher's will and become the third Hokage. For that, I feel honored. At the same time, I also feel a great sense of responsibility. Konoha is everyone's Konoha, and the Hokage is here to serve everyone. Taking from the people, using for the people. I firmly believe that as long as everyone is united, there is no difficulty that cannot be overcome. Finally, I want to say that wherever the leaves dance, the fire will never stop. Let us contribute to the construction of Konoha together. After the speech, there was a brief silence, followed by a burst of earth-shaking screams. Kied Hoshino's speech was passionate, with ups and downs, like a roller coaster. But the effect was outstanding. Everyone was in high spirits and the originally shaken people's hearts were calmed. An inauguration ceremony was a brilliant move to regain the people's support that Konoha had lost over the years. Even Nara, who was watching from the side, couldn't control his emotions. It was so inspiring. Fortunately, Lord Hoshino was born in Konoha, and fortunately he is the Hokage. Such a Hokage is a blessing to Konoha and to the people. I seem to have seen the day when Konoha prospers. Nara murmured. His eyes flickered with a hint of excitement and longing. After the ceremony, the crowd dispersed, but the topic could not be stopped, and Xingye Feng breathed a sigh of relief. Finally it was done. It was worth the time he spent considering the words. Fortunately, the effect is good. Talking is not his forte. It's just because of his experience in his past life. Brother, you were so handsome just now. Hoshino Teru rubbed him like a lackey, looking like a fanboy. Xingye Feng smiled and touched his head. Being handsome is useless. Helping Konoha develop is what's really cool. Hoshino Teru's little head seemed to be thinking about something. Seeing this, Xingye Feng just smiled and looked at Nara Shikachi, notify all the senior executives that there is something to announce. Yes. Nara Shikachi nodded without hesitation. Son, you really surprised me today. After Nara dear left, Hoshino Yoda stepped forward and said, It's nothing. It's just what I really think. I just polished it up a bit. Xingye Feng said modestly. Uzumaki Mido covered his mouth and laughed. I didn't realize before that you have such a good tongue. Today's speech will probably cause a stir. Konoha is going to be lively again. Hearing this, Xingye Feng spread his hands and pretended to be helpless. Alas, there is nothing I can do. It just happened on a whim. Let's have some fun. This is not a big deal. Uzumaki Mido naturally didn't believe it and just shook his head. Hokage-sama, everyone is here. Maruboshi Kasuke suddenly said. Xingye Feng nodded. I'm leaving first. I won't be back soon. I still have a lot of things to deal with. Hoshino Yoda nodded and sighed inwardly. It was less common when I was at home before, and now that I'm finally back, it's still the same. All I can say is that everyone has their own gains and losses. Xiao, Zhenhong, Yi, follow me. Xingye Feng called the names of 3 disciples and then went to the meeting room. The 3 of them were also confused, but they reacted quickly and followed immediately. Kied Hoshino, wearing the Hokage robe, rushed to the meeting room in a hurry. From this moment on, the burden of Konoha fell on his shoulders. The first meeting of the new Hokage seemed very quiet, or rather, in awe. Before succeeding the Hokage, Kid Hishino urged all clans to hand over the embezzled money, so it has been delayed until today. Some families are taking chances, thinking that the law does not hold everyone responsible and that they can get away with it. But they underestimated Feng Xingye and overestimated themselves. After learning about this, he took prompt action and ordered the Anbu to arrest and imprison him. This thundering move made all the tribes nervous, and the last glimmer of hope was cut off. During those days, Xingye Feng displayed fierce methods, as if telling them that this was the consequence of disobeying. Therefore, no one dared to speak casually at this moment, all because of his majesty. The last time this happened was when the first Hokage selected the second Hokage. Everyone is so quiet. Why aren't you talking? Xingye Feng pushed open the door, and a depressing atmosphere hit him. After looking around, they all shrank their heads and said nothing. Seeing this, Xingye Feng shook his head. It seemed that he was scared, but it was normal. There has been some panic recently. It's time to let their tensions loosen up a bit. Giving a slap in the face and then giving a sweet date is beneficial to both parties. Konoha still needs them to maintain its existence today, so we can't force them. I called everyone here because I plan to reform Konoha's organization. Previously, many organizations had overlapping responsibilities, which was too inconvenient. So, I want to replan it. Xingye Feng said with a smile, his face gentle, not at all domineering. Everyone looked at each other, wondering what Xingye Feng was up to. Chapter 88 Great Changes. One word determines the fate. Now that Konoha's organization has matured and its various mechanisms have been perfected, it stands to reason that it will not change for some time to come. Now that Xingye Feng said this, everyone was really confused. Hishino Kid looked at their puzzled expressions, smiled, and nodded to the Nara deer beside him. Nara Shika understood, took out a document, and then said, according to the instructions of the Hokage, make the following adjustments. As he spoke, his voice paused, then he looked at Uchiha Kirajima and said, the Konoha Guard will be abolished and changed to the Public Security Department. The head of the Uchiha clan will still be in charge, and Kurama Izumo will be the deputy head. This change made everyone's eyes move slightly. The Uchiha clan was nothing surprising, but the Kurama clan was very surprising. This clan has a very low presence in Konoha, and apart from illusions, they have nothing to show off. But although they were surprised, they did not lose their composure. However, the next sentence made their faces change. Especially Uchiha Kirajima, his face was gloomy, like dark clouds covering the earth during a rainy day. The personnel are composed of Uchiha and other families. Uchiha cannot exceed half of the number. As the words fell, there was a burst of whispers in the room, all of which were about this statement. Since the founding of Konoha village, the Uchiha clan has always been responsible for maintaining law and order in the village, and other families have never been involved. And now, this stereotype has been directly broken. Half of the personnel have been transferred away, which is equivalent to the reduction of Uchiha's rights. The huge change made some perceptive people look at Uchiha Kirajima with a look of gloating in their eyes. Hokage-sama. Why? Sure enough, after hearing this arrangement, Uchiha Kirajima couldn't help but stand up and ask. He couldn't accept that the rights that originally belonged to the Uchiha clan were to be divided among other clans. If the family knew about this, it would definitely cause an uproar, or even cause unrest. There was anger and regret in Uchiha Kirajima's eyes. He regretted being impulsive and asking out loud. But if you don't ask, things will get worse. The interrupted Nara Shikachi looked at Uchiha Kirajima, then looked at Hishino Kid. His eyes seemed to be asking questions. Xingye Feng nodded slightly, indicating that he should explain. Chief Kirajima, please be patient. The Hokage will explain it to you later. After getting permission, Nara Shikaichi felt certain in his heart and said to Uchiha Kitajima with a smile. Hearing this, Uchiha Kitajima sat back down, but his expression was still ugly. Nara Shikaichi cleared his throat and continued his announcement. Abolish the administrative department and add 3 new elders, to be Saruto by Hiruzen, Shimura Danzo, and Nara Shikaichi. When he saw his name, Nara Shikaichi paused for a second, his heart filled with turmoil. I almost dropped the documents in my hands. The administrative department originally assisted the Hokage in handling some government affairs and was able to influence legislation, so its status was very high. Although it has been abolished now, the additional elders who can be appointed to fill the vacancies are equivalent to its existence. He was not surprised that Saruto by Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo were the elders, but he was surprised that he was also on it. The elders only have the right to make suggestions, not the right to decide. Everything is subject to the Hokage's decision. After saying this, Nara Shika's mind suddenly became clear and he understood what Hoshino Kid meant. He wants to find a part-time job for himself, which will not affect the status of Hokage and can also allow him to slack off. He is worthy of the character of Hokage. After complaining a little inwardly, Nara Shikaichi adjusted his mind and then spoke. The Minister of Finance will be Utane Koharu, and the Deputy Minister will be Midakado N. Finance is a very important institution. If you have money, you won't have to worry. Both of them were surprised to hear their names. They thought they would not get a share, but unexpectedly the surprise came so suddenly. After a burst of excitement, he slowly calmed down and remained calm on the surface. The Hokage will concurrently serve as the Minister of Education, Hadake Sakumo will serve as the Minister of Anbu, and Midori Shisho will serve as the Deputy Minister. After listening to this, everyone was confused again. The Ministry of Education is fine, but the Anbu is a different story. In terms of authority alone, the Anbu are second only to the Emperor, with power so great that it is boundless, and they are only responsible to the Hokage. Now Danzo has not established the route, so there is no division of the Anbu. A single Anbu is extremely terrifying. There were waves in Hadake Sakumo's eyes, and he couldn't help but touch the scabbard behind him. His eyes gradually became firm. Uterai's Xiao touched his nose. The surprise on his face had not yet disappeared. Obviously, he didn't know that Xingye Feng would make such arrangements. The Intelligence Department and the Interrogation Department have been merged into one department, called the Military Intelligence Department. The head is Junichi Yamanaka, and the deputy head is Aoba Morino. The position of Director of the Medical Department is temporarily vacant, and the most capable person will take up the position. Except for the Anbu, all departments have equal status, and there is no distinction between superiors and subordinates. At this point, Nara Shika finished speaking. The series of arrangements left everyone still unprepared, and then with the tacit approval of Xingye Feng, they began to discuss with each other in a low voice. Everyone is in a different mood, and this adjustment makes them think differently. This is the second reshuffle of high-level power after the first Hokage. Half an hour later, Xingye Feng slowly opened his eyes, and the meeting fell silent in an instant. Uchiha Kitajima was very nervous and looked at Hoshino Kid anxiously. Chief Kitajima, Hoshino Kid looked at Uchiha Kitajima. Everyone looked over. After all, the Uchiha's power had just been severely reduced. This will definitely make people imagine that it is the third Hokage who is suppressing them. Without a reasonable explanation, I'm afraid the Uchiha will have a difficult future. Does Uchiha want to produce a Hokage? Hoshino Kid's astonishing question stunned Uchiha Kitajima. Even the others were shocked by this. Your expression has already answered me. Uchiha Kitajima's face was struggling, and Hoshino Kid smiled. As another clan that founded Konoha together with the Senju clan, you have coveted the position of Hokage for a long time. Uchiha Kitajima's heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly tried to explain. The looks in the eyes of the various tribes gradually turned into mockery. No, Hokage-sama. Hashino-Kid waved his hand, interrupting him and continued, I don't mean anything else. Everyone in Konoha can become Hokage, as long as he is a villager of Konoha. Everyone was stunned. Does this mean Uchiha is also okay? Uchiha Kitajima looked delighted, and before Hashino-Kid finished speaking, he changed the subject. But the Uchiha's arrogance is known to everyone in the ninja world, and this is unacceptable to the Hokage. Today, I will disband the security team and introduce other families to it. This will be 100 benefits for you and no harm at all. Chief Kitajima, people can have pride, but not arrogance. Everyone in Konoha is the same. Hashino-Kid said the last sentence meaningfully, looking back and forth at everyone. Chapter 89 The Dawn of Uchiha. That gaze was extremely deep, as if it penetrated their hearts and reached the bottom of their hearts. I just felt a chill on my back, as if something was staring at me. With a bitter smile on his lips, everyone looked at each other. So he was talking about Uchiha on the surface, but was actually talking about them indirectly. If Hashino-Kid knew what they were thinking, he would definitely shake his head and wave his hands. I'm not reminding you explicitly and implicitly, it's obvious that both of them are knocking. It's not impossible for the Uchiha to have a Hokage. I can even promise that as long as the Uchiha is supported by the people of Konoha, no matter who he is, he can become the Hokage. Hashino-Kid looked at Uchiha Kitajima with a smile and promised. Really? Uchiha Kitajima couldn't believe it. They had wanted to become Hokage for a long time, but they just never had the chance. Since the establishment of the security team, the Uchiha's reputation in the village has plummeted. Although they are impartial in enforcing the law, the villagers say behind their backs that they are ruthless. This ruined their reputation in the village and no one liked them. Of course. Feng nodded seriously. But I think this may not be a matter of 1 or 2 days. It requires hard work and you need to be mentally prepared. Hashino-Kid said. But Uchiha Kitajima was already ecstatic, and his Sharingan was opened with excitement. I don't know if it can be changed, but what Hashino-Kid said is equivalent to telling him clearly that as long as he meets the conditions, he will be the next Hokage. Regardless of whether it exists or not, as long as they are given a chance, the family will be excited. The Uchiha have never been afraid of competition, not even on the battlefield. They were just worried that the road to the Hokage would be blocked, leaving no room for any wiggle. There has always been a speculation among them. It is believed that the second Hokage gave the guard team the thankless task in order to prevent the Hokage from falling into the hands of the Uchiha. Although it is impossible to prove whether it is true or not, reality tells them the cruel truth. This is a trap, and inside the trap are endless temptations waiting for Uchiha to jump in. Once you jump down, it will be difficult to get out, and the meat you have got cannot be thrown away easily. And now, Feng gave an opportunity to go up the pit. This allowed a ray of light called hope to shine through the dark underground. Uchiha Kitajima was so excited that he could hardly control himself. Then, Feng said to the others, these words apply to Uchiha, and they also apply to you. Hokage is not a position for personal gain. Hashino-Kid continued, the previous policies of Konoha should be changed if they should be changed. Liu Yi, you discuss this with the other 2 elders. Don't worry about anything. The domineering words echoed at this moment, and everyone seemed to see the shadow of the second generation. The same dictatorship, the same dominance. Yes. Nara Shikachi nodded seriously. Once the imperial sword was in hand, no one dared to stop him. After the meeting, everyone had a different expression on their face, some happy, some worried, and some scared. All kinds of things in the world appear here. Teacher, what about me and Zhenhong? Yu Guangai said hurriedly after everyone left. You? Feng hesitated for a moment, looking distressed. It seems that there is nothing suitable for you. Then he asked, "How about you become a teacher and partner with Gao Hu?" "What? Being a teacher is boring." Yu Guangmai immediately shook his head and refused to do it. Facing a group of naughty kids all day long, he was afraid that he would not be able to control himself and would kill them with one blow of the knife. Xingye Feng thought about it again and said, "How about this? You and Zhenhong go to find Yamanaka Jinishi. That place should be suitable for you. Your bloodline limit combined with the red illusion should be able to play a big role." Upon hearing this, Yu Guangyi and Zairai Zhenhong's eyes lit up. Seeing the looks of the two, Xingye Feng felt a little amused. Suddenly, he had an idea and continued speaking. "There's also a position in the Anbu. Right now, they're short of manpower, and the top strength is a bit lacking. Hee, this is interesting. I find these little fights boring." Moonlight Knight held his head high, extremely satisfied. Xingye Feng glanced at him and said dimly, "Anbu is not the same as usual. You should restrain your temper." Yu Guangyi laughed twice and quickly said yes, while taking a step back without leaving a trace. "Teacher, I will watch ye." The steady Zhenhong stood up. Xingye Feng nodded in satisfaction, then glared at Yu Guangyi again. "Go ahead, you're an adult now. You don't need to act like a child anymore." Xingye Feng waved his hand, and the two of them smiled awkwardly and left. Time flies so fast, Xingye Feng sighed, and then immersed himself in the sea of books. He had a lot of things to deal with now, and he had no time to think too much. Uchiha Kitajimer returned home overjoyed. He couldn't hide his joy at all and was in the best mood ever. "What's wrong? Why are you so happy?" A charming woman knelt on the tatami, fiddling with food, and smiled at him. There was a little kid on the side, kneeling upright, looking like a little adult. Uchiha Kitajima first examined his son, and seeing that he was sitting well, he nodded with satisfaction, and then spoke. "Of course I am happy. Today's meeting has undergone tremendous changes." At home, Beidao seemed a little gentler, and the clan leader's aura was much more restrained. Uchiha Fugaku glanced at his father curiously, then quickly lowered his head. Beidao is very strict on weekdays and doesn't allow talking while eating. Afterwards, Kitajima told about the arrangements for Uchiha in the meeting. "Liang, you know, this is a huge happy event for the Uchiha family," Uchiha Kitajima said excitedly. Uchiha Ryo was not an ignorant person, and he knew how important this matter was to the Uchiha. But she still said with some concern, "But, Beidao, just because you can see clearly doesn't mean that the elders of the tribe can see clearly." Liang's reminder was like a basin of cold water poured over Beidao from head to toe, extinguishing his excitement. Then he sighed, "Ah, you are right. It will take some effort to convince the elders." Shugaku, who had been eating with his head down, suddenly asked in confusion, "But isn't this a win-win situation? Why are you opposing it?" A childish voice suddenly interrupted. Beidao frowned, then relaxed his brows. A hint of approval flashed in his eyes, and he sneered. "Because they feel that this is a disgrace to the Uchiha clan." Speaking of this, Beidao couldn't help but sneer, looking very disdainful. This kind of superficial glory is completely useless and is a rubbish to both the family and the individual. Uchiha Fugaku seemed to be thinking about something, his little head turning rapidly. "It's good that you asked this question," Beidao said, and suddenly praised. Uchiha Fugaku was stunned for a moment, but then he smiled happily. "There aren't many times when my father praises me. You guys eat first. I'm going to the clan meeting now. This matter needs to be resolved as soon as possible." Uchiha Kitajima put down his bowl and chopsticks, stood up, and said, "I will never let those stubborn people affect the overall situation." Beidao was full of murderous intent, his pair of scarlet eyes turning. Chapter 90, The Beggar Child, A Crisis of Trust. The next day, the sun rose in the east. Xingye Feng looked at the morning light outside the window, stood up, and stretched. "After sitting all night, my waist became much stiffer. Hokage, there was a riot in the Uchiha clan's territory last night." An Anbu half knelt on the ground, appearing and disappearing mysteriously. Xingye Feng nodded slightly, waved his hand and said, "Got it." Upon hearing this, the Anbu flashed away without getting hurt by a single leaf, and their movements were silent. This Uchiha clan leader is really smart and knows how to observe the situation, Xingye Feng thought secretly. But it's a bit difficult for him to do it alone. Looks like we have to wait and see who will be next, Fugaku? Ishino-Kid thought of what Uchiha Fugaku had done and his expression became complicated. He was indecisive, failed at critical moments, and dared not rebel. He handed his life to his son just to fulfill his wish and destroy the Uchiha clan. Forget it, let's wait and see. Anyway, with me here, the Uchiha can't cause any trouble. Ishino-Kid chuckled, his thoughts clear. Having strength means being able to do whatever he wants, and it is his greatest confidence. Let's go out for a walk. Even if you are the Hokage, you have to be close to the people. This idea suddenly occurred to Xingye Feng as if it came on a whim. Then he changed his clothes and used transformation skills to change his appearance. After all, with his fame, everyone probably knows him. When I came to the street, I saw people coming and going. Everyone seemed to be very busy, racing against time and walking in a fast pace. Xingye Feng saw this and couldn't help but shook his head. We still need to develop. After sighing, suddenly several thin figures caught his attention. He frowned and his face instantly became gloomy. In front of a vendor, several children had pleading looks on their faces and kept begging, hoping to get some food. Please, give me something to eat. Upon hearing this, the vendor boss said with disgust, go away, don't disturb my business." The leading child looked gloomy and left in disappointment. We have been away for a long time. It's time to go back, otherwise the dean will be angry." The child behind him said timidly, his little eyes full of anxiety. The child called Yu bit his lips stubbornly, shook his head, and turned back to speak to them. "No, the dean's mother is already very busy. We have to share some of the burden, even if it's just a little bit." The rest of the children fell silent. Children from poor families have to grow up early, and they could more or less feel the difficulties faced by the dean. It was better in the past few years, but in recent years, Konoha's economy has been sluggish, and the upper class has been fighting for power and profit. A money-losing orphanage naturally would not have enough funds to maintain its operation. At this time, a child suddenly said, "I heard that the new Hokage took office. I wonder if there will be any changes." Humph. Before the other children could say anything, Yu sneered and said, "Change your mind? It's good enough if you don't cause any trouble to us. Those senior executives never cared about our lives." Speaking of this, Yu looked excited, and hatred flashed across his face. I wonder what he had been through to become like this. Xingye Feng's eyes were dark and he couldn't tell what he felt in his heart. He seemed to be too optimistic. Even the children are disappointed with the top management, let alone the adults. Konoha has reached a critical moment, a crisis of losing the hearts of the people. But I heard that when he took over a few days ago, many people were cheering. Yusuke said in a low voice. Yu's face was conflicted, and his first reaction was disbelief, thinking that he was just doing it for show. Yes, I sneaked out to see it that day." Another child echoed, perhaps having seen it before, with an expectant look in his eyes. There was a roar of applause and a look of joy. I seemed to see the hope that the director's mother had talked about. His eyes were expectant and full of longing. Even if you are in darkness for a long time, you still have hope in your heart, longing for a ray of light to illuminate the darkness and break the haze. Yu pursed his lips, still stubbornly unbelieving, and said stubbornly, "Don't be silly, people like us are worse than trash, let alone hope." His words were like a basin of cold water, instantly extinguishing the hope that was about to be ignited, leaving only a tiny glimmer of light that was about to go out. Everyone couldn't help but lower their heads, feeling inferior and looking depressed. I don't think so. The sudden adult voice sounded, startling them. Ishino Feng walked slowly in front of them with a loving and gentle look on his face. It makes them feel as if a breeze has blown away the haze. But soon, you became alert and took a few steps back with the other children. Who are you? What do you want to do? Yu Sheng is fierce but weak. He appears tough on the outside, but he is very nervous inside, fearing that the person coming is a bad guy. Seeing his look, Xingye Feng couldn't help but chuckle, and as he laughed, tears flashed in his eyes. These children should have been nestled in their parents' arms, enjoying the love and care comfortably, but now they are like frightened rabbits, and every move makes them afraid and tremble. This made his heart ache again. There was confusion in Yu's eyes. This person was a little strange. He actually cried. However, even so, he did not relax at all, but became more vigilant. Danger never appears on the surface, but hides deeper, waiting for the moment you relax to deliver a fatal blow. You are suddenly, the child who had sneaked out before showed doubt in his eyes, and felt that the person in front of him was very familiar. After looking at it for a moment, he exclaimed, "You are the Hokage." Ishino Kid had already lifted the transformation technique, and the succession ceremony had only been a few days, so it was not surprising that he could be recognized. Yu asked in a low voice while looking at Xingye Feng, "Are you sure he is the third Hokage?" He was disappointed with the higher-ups and showed no respect for the Hokage. Yes, it was this person who stood on the Hokage building and gave a speech that day, causing a lot of people to cheer. The child nodded very affirmatively. If you hadn't pulled him, he would have run up long ago. So what if he's the Hokage? He's the same as those people. Yu gritted his teeth and whined like a little wolf cub, with a fierce and distrustful look on his face. Ishino Feng didn't care about his attitude, or rather, he had no reason to care. It must be obvious why this kid hates the higher-ups so much. At this moment, Xingye Feng was distracted and his eyes were blurred. At this moment, Yu Xin became ruthless and rushed forward at an extremely fast speed, biting Xingye Feng's wrist with his small teeth. The force was so brutal that after one bite, Xingye Feng felt the pain instantly peak. The bright red blood flowed into Yu's mouth, and the pungent smell aroused his bloodiness again. "Swa, Hokage-sama." The Anbu hiding in the dark appeared instantly and was about to step forward to pull Yu away, but was scolded by Ishino Kid. "Don't come over here. This is between me and this child. Don't interfere." Chapter 91. Pharmacist Hori. Ishino Kid shouted harshly, causing the angry Anbu to shrink his neck and dare not move forward. "Good boy, are you born in the year of the dog? Your teeth are so good." Xingye Feng smiled silently, touched Yu's head with his other intact hand, his tone full of teasing. He didn't look angry at all, but rather had a friendly expression, like the brother next door. The pain in his wrist seemed to be non-existent and his expression was calm and composed. Seeing this, Yu restrained his fierceness, pursed his lips and stepped back, avoiding the hand that was touching his head, with an uncomfortable look on his face. Ishino Kid chuckled and then looked at his wrist. The bite mark was very deep, and the flesh was roughly cut by the sharp teeth, and blood gushed out. Xingye Feng remained calm at this. This injury was not worth mentioning to him, it was just a small wound. Then he called upon the power of time to cover the wound. In an instant, the skin and flesh were healing inwards and closing at a speed visible to the naked eye. It disappeared in a short while. Yu's expression changed slightly. This miraculous thing shocked him greatly, and it also showed how powerful the person in front of him was. "I'm sorry. I'm standing too high and always overlook some small details. I apologize to you here." To everyone's surprise, Ishino Kid actually bowed deeply to the group of children with an apologetic look on his face. "It has nothing to do with Hokage-sama," Yusuke said timidly, hiding behind others. Although they were young, they knew that the current Hokage left 8 years ago and had only just returned now. What happened in Konoha had nothing to do with the person in front of him. Feng looked at him and said gently, "It wasn't there before, but it is now." Then he looked at the leader Yu, who had a complicated expression on his face. "Can you take me to the orphanage?" Feng was not arrogant, but gave him enough respect and did not look down on him just because they were children. Sometimes, children see things more clearly than adults. They can see the big picture from a small perspective and look at things from the side, so they may see things differently. As Feng finished speaking, Yu did not respond, but just looked at him straight, as if trying to see something from his face. "Just now I heard you say that the orphanage is short of funds. Maybe I can solve the problem." Seeing that Yu didn't move, Feng just smiled and then told him about the orphanage. After all, everyone would be alert when facing strangers, even if he is the Hokage. Hearing this, Yu's eyes moved slightly, his brows knitted, then loosened, turned around and said, "Follow me." Kid chuckled and followed. Konoha Orphanage was originally established after the First Ninja World War, with the main purpose of adopting children who lost their loved ones in the war. But as the war ended, life gradually returned to normal, and the orphanage no longer only took in war orphans. Some unwanted children also entered the orphanage. With more children, funds became tighter, and every child needed nutrition, which also caused the orphanage's life to get worse day by day. Life was so tight that even having meat was a luxury. Feng followed the children through twists and turns and arrived at a remote area in the northwest corner of Konoha. The population here is sparse, the trees are dense, and wild animals often appear. Fortunately, the village set up a ceiling formation around it to protect the orphanage. "It's just ahead," Yu said calmly, and without waiting for him to say anything, he led the people behind him in. Feng Xingye stood at the door. The door in front of him was corroded by rust and had fallen into disrepair after years of neglect. Seeing this, he could already anticipate the situation inside. Feng sighed deeply and stepped inside. The door made an unpleasant, harsh sound as if silently mocking the inaction of Konoha's top leaders. Children are the seedlings of the village. What hope can they have if they live in such an environment? As you step into the yard, you can see weeds everywhere and an abandoned scene. Few people come here, and the arrival of Feng also makes the children in the yard curious. Just as he was watching, the dean came running over, followed by a large group of children. "Hokage-sama." Upon hearing the Hokage's arrival, the dean suddenly became nervous. Feng looked at her and greeted her with a smile. "Hello, Dean. I'm sorry for disturbing you." Chiho was flattered and waved her hands awkwardly, with every move full of tenderness. This made Feng look at her a little more. "Hokage-sama, it is an honor for us to have you here." As soon as the words fell, Yu shouted and yelled, "Dean Mom, it should be his honor to be here." Upon hearing this, Hori quickly covered his mouth and said apologetically, "Hokage, children speak without restraint." "You didn't mean it." Even though his mouth was blocked, his eyes showed no sign of surrender, as if that was what he was supposed to do. "It's okay, he's right." Feng smiled and didn't mind. Chiho was stunned for a moment, then smiled, pulled Yu behind her, reached out and knocked on his head, signaling him to be more obedient. "I wonder if Lord Hokage has come here for something?" asked Hori expectantly. "The food in the hospital is almost gone and we can only hold out for a few days. If we don't find a solution, the children will starve, which makes us very worried." The fluctuations in emotions made Feng Xingye sigh that the children here are very lucky to have a dean who cares about them so much. "Dean, I don't know your name yet." "Hori," she said slowly after hesitating for a moment. "Pharmacist." This last name Kid blinked. Feeling his gaze, Chiho asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" "No, nothing, I just remembered something," Feng said after coming back to his senses. Then he said seriously, I will deal with the matter of the orphanage immediately. The children are the hope and future of the village. We can't leave them alone. After that, I will ask the Ministry of Finance to allocate funds. If the amount is insufficient, you can go to the Hokage building and tell me. Yakashi Hori was overjoyed and cried with joy. The things that had troubled her for a long time were finally resolved, and she felt much happier. Xingye Feng looked at you again. Can you tell me why you hate the top leaders of Konoha? Is it because of something they did? You looked at him with hatred on his face. It was hard to imagine that a child could have such resentment. Akashi Chiho looked hesitant, then gritted her teeth and said, the child's father was a chunin who died in a mission and the original pension was embezzled. Finally, he ended up in an orphanage. Hearing this, Xingye Feng didn't know how to comfort her. Ultimately, it was due to wrong decisions made by senior management and lax management. What do you want to do in the future? Asked Xingye Feng. Yu raised his head, the hatred in his eyes did not diminish, and turned into murderous intent. I want revenge. Yakashi Chihori frowned and scolded, You, what are you talking about? Xingye Feng waved his hand, walked forward, squatted down, looked him straight in the eyes, and said, Okay, I'll give you this chance. Chapter 92. We are both willing. How can it be called cheating? After leaving the orphanage, Feng Hashino looked up at the blue sky. In his eyes, the sky of Konoha was not so clear. Evil spirits and monsters are mixed in it, polluting the sky which should be clean. Hokage-sama, Lord Jikaichi is looking for you. Anbu suddenly appeared and said calmly, Really? Then let's go back first and let Sayachan take care of the things here. Hashino Kid nodded, gave an order, and quickly walked towards the Hokage building. Before entering the door, I could hear an arguing sound from inside. Minister Koharu, according to Lord Hokage's wishes, commercial taxes must be reduced and cannot be the same as before. Nara Shikaichi said seriously. But if we surrender now, Konoha's fragile economy will collapse in an instant. Udane Koharu retorted, without any specious arguments, but speaking in accordance with the facts. What you said makes sense, and you all have your own reasons. Xingye Feng shook his head and pushed the door open. Hokage-sama. Nara Shikaichi stepped forward quickly and told him everything. Xingye Feng nodded, sat down and said, I know the general process. He turned to look at Udane Koharu and said, Too heavy a business tax is not friendly to merchants. It is not conducive to the development of Konoha. It must be reduced. In the short term, it will indeed affect Konoha's finances, but we can't always focus on the near future. We need to look further ahead. Udane Koharu sighed when she heard this. I know that, but the finances are really tight right now. If there is any big move, it will be very disadvantageous to Konoha. Nara Shikaichi then went on to say, based on the current financial situation, even if it can be reduced, it can only be reduced a little bit, and this is already the limit. All departments need funds to operate, people have to eat, and some have families to support. Overall, it's been very difficult. Even though he was known for his wisdom, he couldn't think of a solution. After listening to this, Xingye Feng looked at the two people with sad faces and smiled. Since we can't make money internally, let's look for it from the outside. Outside? Both of them looked at each other in confusion. That's right. Hashino Kid nodded. A long time ago, I wrote a letter and asked someone to take it to the daimyo, hoping to help Konoha. Nara Shikaichi shook his head and said with a wry smile, It is impossible for the daimyo to allocate funds. His tone was very certain, leaving no room for ambiguity. As far as the Fire Nation is concerned, Konoha village only obeys orders and not warnings. The Hokage is the actual leader, and the daimyo cannot interfere at all, which makes the successive daimyo very unhappy with Konoha, not to mention allocating funds. In response, Xingye Feng said meaningfully, That's hard to say. Nara dear was stunned. Could there be a turning point? At this moment, there was a knock on the door and a voice came from outside. Hokage-sama, someone has come from the capital, saying that the funds to aid Konoha have arrived. Got it. Xingye Feng replied, then looked at the two of them. Well, I said maybe not. After being shocked, Nara came to his senses and asked, how did you do that? It's very simple. Hishino leaned back and said easily, just tell the daimyo the pros and cons, and exaggerate a few things to make him think that Konoha has reached the end of its rope. If Konoha falls, it will not be good news for the land of fire. Udatain Koharu said doubtfully, but the daimyo is not a fool. It's impossible that he wouldn't send someone to verify it. That's right. Ishino smiled with a successful plot. So, I asked the Anbu to act out a play with them. Seeing is not necessarily believing. Nara rubbed his brows and said, you are deceiving me. Once the daimyo finds out, it will be the end of us. Xingye Feng waved his hand nonchalantly. How can it be called cheating if we both agree to it? Zaya-chan, this money should be enough for a short period of time. I'll give it all to you. Udain Koharu was extremely happy and nodded immediately. Leave it to me. After saying that, his eyes glowed green as he rushed out the door, ready to receive the funds. This can only quench your thirst temporarily. Nara frowned. I know, so come and take a look at this. Ishino took out a document from the drawer. Nara took it and read it carefully. After a while his eyes lit up like light bulbs. He was so excited that his breathing became rapid. If this is implemented, it can instantly solve Konoha's financial problems. Even able to control the economy of the ninja world. By then, Konoha will be as rich as a country. It's no wonder that he was so excited. He was truly shocked by the epoch-making content in the document. Hishino combined what she saw and heard in her previous life with the current economic trends in the ninja world. Formulated a series of reform plans for Konoha. With Nara perspective, he thought about it carefully and realized the intention behind this. But just from these one or two things, we can see how big Xingye Feng's plan is. Lu Yi, this plan is currently unknown to you. Please keep it confidential. You can investigate secretly in the village and find out the truth. It's better to be late than to be impatient. Xingye Feng's expression was extremely serious, which showed how much importance he attached to this plan. I understand. Nara adjusted his mind and said solemnly, this requires a suitable time. There was a gleam in Xingye Feng's eyes as if he had thought of something. Nara was thoughtful when he heard this. Suddenly, Xingye Feng turned his head and looked out the window, and the noisy sounds came into his ears from time to time. Looking at the scene outside the window, he spoke with a deep gaze as if casually. Lu Yi, do you think the Uchiha and Hyuga clans are born to be incompatible? The old ones are beaten, and the young ones are restless. Nara heart moved, and he immediately went forward to take a look. Inside the school playground, there are 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside forming a circle. The 2 people in the center were panting, with scars on their faces, but both looked unconvinced. Hokage-sama. The 2 people fighting are Hyuga Hayashi and Uchiha Fugaku. Both are children of the 2 clan leaders. After Narashika finished speaking, he mourned for the 2 tribes in his heart. Lord Hokage has set his sights on both clans. Putting aside personal factors, I think those 2 are quite capable and have a solid foundation. Hinata Mori and Uchiha Kitajima taught well, at least in terms of strength. Ishino commented on the 2 of them with great interest, as if he was watching a performance. Lu Yi, do you think the title of Konoha's no one family is really that attractive? Ishino Feng suddenly asked. Nara thought about it for a moment, then pretended to be confused and said, I don't know. Hearing this, Xingye Feng snorted lightly and didn't ask any more questions. It's just right. We should pay more attention to the education in schools. Don't they like to compete for first place? Let someone hang the top 3 at the gate so people can see them. Oh, and hang the bottom 3 as well. The devil inside of Hoshino Kid surfaced, with a smirk on his face. Hokage-sama, you are adding fuel to the fire, Narashika said in a low voice. Adding fuel to the fire. That's true. Xingye Feng thought about it carefully. But there's no harm in healthy competition. After saying that, he added another sentence. Of course, there will be rewards for the top 3. Konoha's B rank and below ninjutsu will be open to them. Chapter 93, Konoha and -039's 28th year, Financial Surge. Since it is a competition, there must be rewards. The opening of ninjutsu below B rank is very valuable to students, especially civilians. But Narashikachi hesitated. Isn't this too high? B-level ninjutsu is already a very high-level ninjutsu. Others may have objections, and students may not be able to use them. There is reason to worry, said Feng Xingye after thinking for a moment. Then let's change it. In the future, C-rank ninjutsu will be open to the public. That will be balanced. Narashikachi's mouth twitched. That's not what I meant. Luyi. Hoshino Kid waved his hand to stop him from saying the next thing. C-level ninjutsu is nothing to the ninja clan. They won't make enemies with me because of this. Don't worry. Having said that, Narashikachi didn't know what to say anymore. Just as Hoshino Kid said, C-level ninjutsu is not considered to be a very advanced ninjutsu. It is not very rare and is within the tolerance of those families. But what he was worried about was not this, but the future. Narashikachi felt that this was just the beginning and there would be more to come. But this is just a guess and we can't just ask directly. Trouble, huh? It seems that the Uchiha is still better. It's surprising that Fugaku can use ninjutsu. Hoshino Kid suddenly exclaimed. Uchiha Fugaku was seen making seals with his hands and spitting out a burning fireball from his mouth, rushing straight towards Hyuga Hayashi. For a child of this age, ninjutsu is out of reach. Normally, it is impossible to use ninjutsu. But there are always some geniuses who like to break people's routines. It seems that Uchiha Fugaku is one of them, but that's right. He doesn't have high talent and it's impossible for him to open the main Jikayo Sharingan. The fireball came with great force, and Hinata Hayashi stood there in a daze, his palms sweating and his sense of crisis was overwhelming. The venue was limited and this fireball took up most of the space. Hinata Hayashi gritted his teeth, jumped to the edge, and narrowly missed the fireball. Nourishes. But despite this, Hinata Hayashi was still burned by the fireball, and a large number of bubbles appeared on his arm with different shades of color. Hinata Hayashi gritted his teeth, stubbornly trying not to make any sound. He wouldn't allow himself to do that in front of the Uchiha. Just as Hinata Hayashi was struggling to stand up, the light in front of him dimmed and a shadow loomed in front of him. Uchiha Fugaku looked down at him and said in a victorious tone, "You lose." Tan's words were like sharp knives piercing into the heart. Hinata Hayashi clenched his fist unwillingly and said through gritted teeth, "It's just once." Uchiha Fugaku sneered, "Once is equal to forever, this is a fact." Hinata Hayashi staggered to his feet, ignoring the burn on his arm, and said word by word, "I will win back next time." The fighting spirit in his eyes grew stronger and stronger, almost becoming physical. The family's sense of honor seemed to be his driving force. Hearing this, Uchiha Fugaku raised his eyebrows and said, "I'll wait. Tisk, if you don't treat your injury, it will get infected." Hoshino Feng appeared instantly. "Hello, Lord Hokage." Seeing Kid Hoshino, everyone saluted politely. "Hello." Feng Xingye nodded at them with a smile. Then he looked at Hinata Hayashi and said, "I like the look in your eyes just now. It's good to never admit defeat. This is the spirit that ninjas need." The words of praise made Hyuga Hayashi happy, and he couldn't help but look at Uchiha Fugaku provocatively. Uchiha Fugaku snorted lightly, turned his head and looked away. "It's just the temper of a child," Xingye Feng thought to himself with amusement. Hokage-sama. The school teacher rushed over, sweat on his forehead. I'm sorry to trouble you. No, I just happened to see it. Feng said. The school's protection work must be strictly controlled and cannot be slack. Yes, be sure to pay attention. The teacher nodded repeatedly, feeling very nervous. He turned to Rizu and said, Go to the hospital quickly and be careful of infection. Hinata Hayashi nodded, saluted to Hoshino Kid, and left quickly. Ishino Feng chatted with the students for a while and then left. In the 28th year of Konoha, after a year of policy reforms and a sum of aid funds, Konoha's financial pressure was greatly alleviated. Xingye Feng used thundering means to forcefully reduce commercial taxes to normal levels. At the same time, villagers were encouraged to farm and trade, and a large number of people were introduced to bring a large amount of labor to Konoha. While Konoha village continues to develop, it is also constantly expanding outward. In order to promote commercial development, Feng Xingye specially divided the business areas and set up one in each of the 4 directions. They also promised that merchants entering the commercial district would be exempted from certain taxes, and that they would be given priority in providing goods and channels, and that the amount of raw materials would be partially reduced. Moreover, delegated tasks will have higher priority and be faster. Once the news spread, it attracted enthusiastic responses from merchants, who requested to move in. The Land of Fire is rich in real estate, and Konoha Village is the largest ninja village with a strong foundation. What merchants care most about is their own safety, but before they could only be escorted on a commission basis, and the demand often exceeded supply. After all, there are only so many ninjas, and it's first come, first served. But Feng Xingye provided an additional method, which was to give priority to commission tasks, which directly hit the businessman's heart. How could they not be excited? Not to mention a host of other benefits. The priority provision of goods and channels alone is enough to make them salivate. Suddenly, a surge of people from Konoha rushed to the Hokage building to register. Because the number is limited, many people who did not register actually paid high prices to buy the places. The price was rising every second, and the situation was clearly getting out of control. Izawa Ikumi, who had already become a regular employee, rolled her eyes and offered to auction off the spot. It has to be said that this directly brought a large amount of income to Konoha. As the places were sold one by one, Koharu Tsuchiya was grinning from ear to ear, because it was all money. In a short period of time, the commercial area was crowded with people. The population previously introduced instantly caused a chain reaction, and consumption levels increased by several levels. 3 months later, in the Hokage building, Kid Hoshino sat in a chair, listening to Nara Shikachi's report. The commercial district's quota was auctioned for 1 billion taels, which has been remitted to the Ministry of Finance. Currently, the tax revenue for these 3 months has reached more than 2 billion and is still rising rapidly. It can be said that Konoha's economic crisis no longer exists. Nara Shikachi looked excited and seemed extremely excited looking at the strings of numbers in his hand. In just over a year, Konoha's finances became abundant, consumption was stimulated, and the population increased by 30%. This result dispelled all the haze hanging over Konoha. Chapter 94, Invade Konoha and make sure he never returns. The originally wilted branches and leaves also regained vitality, as if new life was injected into them. As the saying goes, if you have money, you will not be worried. No matter which direction the wind blows, I will remain unmoved. After the joy, Xingye Feng said, keep 20% of these income as reserves, another 20% as working capital, and invest the rest in various departments to maintain operations. Ask the Ministry of Public Security to pay more attention to the business district so that nothing goes wrong right after it is set up. If something goes wrong, it will be our fault. Feng Hoshino pointed out that Konoha's current finances still need to be maintained by commercial taxes. But this is only temporary. We cannot rely on this alone. Other aspects must also develop scale and share some of the pressure. Although a single approach is good, the risk is too great and cannot compare to all-round development. Konoha's center of gravity will gradually shift in the future, trying to make development as balanced as possible. Yeah, Narashika nodded. He had expected this and had already informed the Ministry of Public Security. Now that we have the money, Konoha can plan for its future development. Ishino-Kid said meaningfully. Nara Shikaichi immediately understood and said seriously, I have been investigating down there for the past few months, and I have roughly grasped the basic information. The Anbu also visited every household, asking about the general situation, and basically figured out the current economic scale and proportion of Konoha. Hishino-Kid nodded slightly, with more admiration for Nara Shikaichi in his eyes. How could a leader not like such subordinates? He can not only help him share government affairs, but also give him advice. He is simply a top-notch tool. Nara Shikaichi continued. Due to the policy issued by you, Hokage, the commercial economy currently occupies more than half of Konoha, and Konoha commissions account for about 15%. Agriculture accounts for 30%, and the rest is scattered economies, which account for 5%. All the precise and detailed information came out from Narashika's mouth. Hishino-Kid narrowed his eyes, tapped his fingers on the table, and showed a thoughtful expression. According to the gathered intelligence, the average economic level of the villagers is not high, just barely enough to make ends meet or above, and most of them are engaged in occupations other than ninja. Ninjas have a high status, and the reward for one mission can be equivalent to an ordinary person's annual income. This is why so many families hope that their children can become ninjas. It is really too much to give them. After hearing this, Feng shook his head slightly and sighed. The gap is too big. Ninja is a high-income, high-risk profession. I'm not surprised that the economy is high. This is what they have earned with years of training and their lives. But the income of the lower-class villagers is too low. It is not right for them to be satisfied with just enough food and clothing. Nara Shikaichi hesitated for a moment, but still said, Hokage-sama, these are actually pretty good. In the first few years of building the village, even maintaining a day's worth of food was a problem. Nowadays, it's already very good if every family in Konoha can have enough food. These were what he was thinking in his heart. He had experienced a time when Konoha was short of supplies. Even the ninja clan had to live on a tight budget. In comparison, life was much more comfortable now. At least, as long as you can work, you won't starve to death. Hearing this, Feng disagreed with what he said and spoke earnestly. Lu Yi, I understand your idea, but now is not the same as before. We built the village for the benefit of future generations. If it's just to satisfy your appetite, then what's the point of development? From nothing to something, and then from something to richness. This is what Konoha has been striving for. We cannot be satisfied with the status quo. For example, right now, even though I can eat enough, can I have meat every meal? Can I have extra money for entertainment? No, they are just struggling to make ends meet, so we have to work towards that goal. The words that came from the heart were like thunder from the sky, exploding above Nara Shikaichi's head. For a moment, he felt mixed emotions and looked at Feng with a complicated and admiring look. I didn't think it through. Feng waved his hand. I don't blame you. You are also seeking truth from facts. I am talking about ideals. As he said this, he suddenly felt that the road was still long and there was still a long time to go. Go on. After sighing for a while, Feng said. Nara Shikaichi took a deep breath, suppressed all his complicated emotions, and continued to report. As of now, apart from business, all other aspects need to be strengthened and supported. Especially farmers, they basically help others farm and don't have their own fields. Feng frowned and interrupted him, saying, Why is that? There are a lot of lands in Konoha, and basically no one is using them. Narashika paused, then shook his head and said, Hokage-sama, although that is true, there are often wild beasts around, and ordinary people have no way to deal with them. Only the ninja clan would send people to patrol, so there are very few villagers who own land. I see. Feng Xingye touched his chin. He seemed to have discovered a blind spot, a point that could rapidly develop agriculture. There is also the forging aspect, which I think is a very urgent matter. Nara Shikaichi said worriedly. Emergency? Oh, I see. Xingye Feng was confused at first, then suddenly realized. Now, more than 10 years have passed since the First Shinobi World War, and the development of each village has reached saturation and the war preparedness is complete. The situation in the ninja world became strange again, and Nara Shikaichi noticed this keenly. Perhaps the next war will happen in the near future. War requires a lot of war resources, and the consumption of shurikens and kunai will increase day by day. Currently, Konoha is somewhat behind in forging, mainly because the mineral veins are very scarce and the transportation costs are high. I remember the Hadake clan knows how to forge. Ashino Feng suddenly thought of something. Narashika was stunned for a moment, then nodded. Yes, the Hadake clan originally forged ninja swords, and their industry and technology are very good. Is that so? Looks like I have to go look for Sakumo, said Hashino keyed. This matter is still under discussion. Xingye Feng thought about it, put it aside for the time being, and asked again. Any more? Nara Shikaichi shook his head. These are all we have for now, but these few points should probably be enough to consume us. It's just time. I have plenty of time. Xingye Feng raised the corners of his mouth and was not worried. As long as he finds the problem, he won't worry about the time it takes to solve it. That's it for now. I'll think of a solution. After talking so much, the amount of information was a bit overwhelming. Xingye Feng rubbed his brows tiredly. After a while, seeing that Nara Shikaichi had not left, he asked curiously, What else? Hokage-sama, I'm worried that war is not far away. War Hashino Feng stood up and looked out the window at the curling smoke. He saw a peaceful scene, paused, and spoke in a firm tone. Don't worry, Konoha is never afraid of a challenge. After saying that, he turned around and looked at him firmly. If they dare to invade Konoha, they will never return. Chapter 95, Xingye Feng and -039's Disciple. Early the next morning, Hashino Kid went to find Hadake Sakumo and explained his purpose. No problem. I naturally have no objection to cooperating with the village. Hadake Sakumo nodded readily upon hearing this. There are naturally many benefits to Konoha cooperating with the Hadake clan, and it can also be an opportunity to make a name for itself. So why not do it? Okay, then you go find Chief Nara and he will take care of it. Hashino Kid said happily. The negotiations went smoothly, which saved me a lot of trouble. Even though he is the Hokage, he cannot use his power to overwhelm others. That would be too embarrassing. After solving the technical problems, the next thing is the raw materials. When it comes to investigation, the Hyuga clan is the best choice, and Kid Hashino immediately goes to visit them. Hinata Mori was quite surprised by this, but he quickly became serious. The matter that could make the Hokage come to visit must be no small matter. Hokage-sama, please give me your orders. Hinata Mori lowered his posture very low. On the one hand, there is the identity of Hokage, and on the other hand, there is his unfathomable strength. After Xingye Feng came back, he never showed his strength again. People outside were curious about this but did not dare to ask. As the patriarch of the Hyuga family and the best master of the Hyuga family, Hyuga Mori has a very sharp vision. If it were someone else, they might not be able to guess it exactly, but at least they would have a general idea in their mind. But Hashino Kid was like the sea, eerily calm, as if everything was so normal, just like an ordinary person. If you really think so, then Hinata Mori doesn't need to be the clan leader anymore. A calm sea does not mean it is ordinary. It may suddenly cause huge waves and sweep you to the bottom of the sea. Not to mention now, even in the past, Kid Hashino's strength was enough to secure the position of Hokage. There is no need to even doubt. Hyuga clan leader, you don't have to be so polite. Feng smiled. I came here this time to ask the Hyuga clan to cooperate with the Akimichi clan to explore for mineral veins. My mine vein? Hinata Mori almost thought there was something wrong with his ears. Seeing this, Feng explained, it is for the storage of war resources. I think the Hyuga clan leader should understand what I mean. After saying this, Hinata Sheng's casual expression suddenly disappeared and turned serious in an instant. The old lady is not convinced by the change of her expression, but I am convinced by you. I will definitely do my best. Hinata Sheng promised, and the disapproval in his heart had long been thrown out of his mind. Then wait for good news. After the discussion, Feng went back. Hinata Sheng's eyes changed several times, sometimes nervous, sometimes worried. But in the end, he just sighed deeply and immediately prepared to look for Nara Shikachi. Back in the office, Nara Shika stood there motionless, and even Hashino Kid couldn't help but ask curiously, Lui, are you here every day? I noticed that you are always the first to arrive. After hearing this, Nara Deer's eyes became extremely resentful, and he complained, nowadays, most things need me to do them. It's good enough that I don't have to stay up all night. Cough, cough. After hearing this, Feng coughed unnaturally, looking extremely embarrassed. It seems that the exploitation of employees has gone too far. Sorry. This was all he could say. After all, he couldn't stop what was happening in Lui's hands, so he could only comfort him verbally. Nara Shikachi didn't expect to rest now, he just sighed. He then cheered up and began to assist Hashino Kid in handling government affairs. It is midsummer and the sun is scorching. While Feng was working hard, the others were also busy. Hurry up, you still want revenge like this. I don't think you'll ever have a chance in this life. Moonlight Knight stood on the training ground, looking at the people not far away, and scolded. Bai Shiyu gritted his teeth and accelerated again with a burst of momentum. During this period, after Feng agreed to give him a chance, he was thrown to Yu Guamai, the person who was watching the show not far away. A tall building starts from the ground. Laying the foundation is a boring and tedious task, but it is something that must be experienced. Not to mention, Shiraishi Yu has never had any formal training. At the beginning, they stumbled and couldn't even complete the most basic training, and they would faint in the middle. But Bai Shiyu is also a stubborn person who repeats the same thing over and over again, which makes Yu Guamai change from disdain at the beginning to admiration. After learning about his life experience, Moonlight Knight started to become serious. Half a day later, Bai Shiyu got a precious moment of rest. On a moonlit night, he held a piece of grass in his mouth, looking very proud. It's okay, at least I managed to hold on. Bai Shiyu raised his sweaty head and asked, Did I meet the requirements? There was a rare tension in his eyes, as if he was waiting for an opportunity that could change his fate. While Moonlight Knight touched his chin, whetting people's appetite and leaving a long gap. After a terrifying pause, Moonlight Knight smiled with satisfaction, squatted down and looked at him. You have passed the test. From now on, I will be your teacher. Originally, Feng wanted to let Yu Guamai teach him for a period of time, but Yu Guamai fell in love with this little guy. He promised that if he could satisfy him, he would accept him as his disciple. The result can be imagined. Hearing this, Bai Shiyu's heart finally relaxed. Listen carefully, my teacher is the third Hokage, whom you have met. You also have 2 uncles, and they are both busy at the moment. Yu Guangyi introduced him to the other 2 people from the same sect. Bai Shiyu nodded and suddenly asked, Teacher, are you free? A few black lines slid down Yu Guangyi's forehead, and then he slapped him on the head without any hesitation. What do you mean? Can't you take a vacation once in a while? Bai Shiyu covered his head and retorted, Can you take a vacation for half a month? Good. Very good. The veins on Yuguamai's forehead bulged, and he turned around and looked around to confirm that there was no one. He walked towards Bai Shiyu with his fists rubbed, his teeth chattering as if he saw an enemy. Bang bang bang. After the repair, Moonlight Knight clapped his hands, let out a sigh, and said with satisfaction, "It feels pretty good. No wonder the teacher liked to beat me. Hishino kid, I'm going to beat you up, don't you know what's going on?" There was no sound for a long time. Yu Guangai glanced at Bai Shiyu, who was pretending to be dead, and said unhappily, "All right, you won't die. This trick of yours is something I used before." Hearing this, Bai Shiyu stood up silently without saying a word. Seeing this, Moonlight Knight sighed, touched his head, and looked straight at him. "Little boy, from now on, I will take care of you so that you don't get into trouble again." Although the words were harsh, the tone was indescribably gentle. Even if Moonlight Knight was slow-witted, he would be able to see that Bai Shiyu actually had a wall in his heart. This is normal. After all, everyone would be afraid of that kind of past and would arm themselves with a tough appearance and posture. But this is already in the past. From now on, Yu Guangyi will not let anyone bully his disciples. Absolutely not. Chapter 96. When friends come, there is wine to drink. When jackals come, there is a shotgun. Bai Shiyu lowered his eyes, and unknowingly, a layer of mist appeared in his eyes. It has been a long time since anyone has spoken in such a gentle tone. Living alone forced him to grow mentally and became very sensitive to emotions. He could feel that what Moonlight Knight said was sincere. Silence was the main theme at the moment. Bai Shiyu's shoulders trembled slightly and tears flooded his vision. It hung at the corner of the eye, then fell down the cheek to the ground, moistening the soil. Moonlight Knight sighed and walked forward, holding the frightened little wolf cub in his arms. The warm embrace made Bai Shiyu tremble for a moment, but then he calmed down and snuggled in the arms with a hint of attachment. Wee. The crying sound became more and more intense, from drizzle to a downpour. The grievances and fears buried in my heart were finally released in an instant under the warm care. Moonlight Knight had a smile on his face, and his big hands kept patting his back to comfort him. Teacher, after venting, Bai Shiyu said with a hint of tears in his voice. "What's wrong?" Moonlight Knight asked, letting him go from her arms and looking at his tear-stained face. Later, Bai Shiyu hesitated for a while before mustering up the courage to say to him, "Can you please not leave me?" After saying that, her big eyes like black grapes looked at him motionlessly, and the expectant look in her eyes made Yu Guangyi's heart soften. "Okay," he answered softly, but it was like a heavy hammer hitting Bai Shiyu's heart. He burst into laughter and threw himself into Moonlight Knight's arms, greedily enjoying the long-lost warmth. "You!" Moonlight Knight looked down at the person in his arms and called out. Bai Shiyu raised his head. The traces of tears had not yet disappeared, and his face was covered with tears and snot, looking quite funny. His eyes were tense, and his restless hands were clutching the corner of his clothes tightly, fearing that this was just a dream that would be shattered at the slightest touch. But his worries were pure nonsense, Moonlight Knight said jokingly, looking at his thin face. "From now on, you have to eat more and gain some weight, so that you can be as light as a piece of paper." The next moment after Bai Shiyu's brain froze, he felt his body lighten and he subconsciously hugged Yu Guamai. After coming back to my senses, I found that I was actually held up by Moonlight Knight, just like when I was a child. "Let's go get some barbecue and give you some good nourishment." Moonlight Knight hugged him and strode towards the barbecue restaurant. Bai Shi wiped his face and smiled happily. "Okay." The 29th year of Konoha, somewhere on the border of the Fire Nation. Several figures were jumping back and forth in the dense forest, carrying scrolls behind them. Looking closely, they all wore masks, and their faces could not be seen clearly. This kind of uniform and mask has always been worn only by Konoha's Anbu. Captain, We have arrived in the land of fire, and will be able to return to Konoha in a few days." The dog-masked ninja suppressed his inner joy and reported calmly. They were originally lurking in the sand village with the purpose of gathering intelligence. In recent years, Konoha has frequently sent out Anbu to gather intelligence deep into other countries, and no one in the Anbu can rest. This time, they followed the usual practice, went back on time to take over and report the intelligence they knew. Everyone in the entire Anbu has been very busy for the past year, but no one dares to be careless. Being in the dark side, one naturally knows much more, and with such a big move, it's hard not to guess why. Well, let's keep going. Things have been very uneasy lately. After more than a decade of peace, the surrounding villages are starting to become restless again. The captain nodded and jumped on the tree trunk without slowing down. "Oh, war, what a disgusting word," the fox-masked ninja complained. "Who said it wasn't?" The captain sighed. "Peace is hard-won and none of them wants to fight." They continued walking until evening, and they found a place to rest and built a bonfire. The world was pitch black, as if they were the only piece of pure land there. The captain sat cross-legged on the ground with his eyes closed to rest. Days of traveling had exhausted them, and they were in urgent need of adjustment. "It's so quiet. There is not a sound at night." Suddenly, the dog-masked ninja said casually. It was this sentence that made the captain suddenly open his eyes and immediately become alert. The sudden movement startled several people. "Captain? What are you doing?" the fox mask said in surprise. The captain signaled for everyone to be quiet, and then spoke in a voice that only a few people could hear. "Something is wrong here. Split up. Everyone take a copy of the intelligence and rush to Konoha." This decisive statement made several people look stern, but they quickly carried out immediately. After everything was ready, the captain made a gesture, and then several people scattered and ran in different directions. The next moment after they left, dozens of people appeared. The leader touched the extinguished campfire and said immediately, "Chase. They can't get far." As soon as he finished speaking, he rushed out like an arrow from a bow. It was a dark and windy murder night, and blood was raging in invisible places. "You chase me and I chase you, just like a hunter chasing his prey. If you are caught, you will die." Puff the kunai scratched the neck, and warm red liquid gushed out from it. The ninja wearing a dog mask had his eyes wide open with an unwilling look on his face, and then fell to the ground. "How many people are you?" the leader said coldly. "The fourth one," a person behind him said with his head down. "One of them still escaped. We can't chase him anymore." The man looked deep into the dense forest with deep eyes. On the other side is Konoha village, standing at the top of the ninja world. A look of fear flashed across his face, and the man shook his head and said, "Let's go. We can't stay here for long." The sky gradually brightened, and a night's sleep made people feel refreshed. Feng made a cup of strong tea and took a sip with a slightly relaxed look. "It feels so good to slack off and nothing happens." Feng sighed slightly. In the past, Hokage was like a beast of burden with endless documents to deal with every day. "How can I still make a cup of tea and sip it slowly like I do now?" Boom. Nara walked towards Feng with a gloomy and unfriendly expression. Seeing this, Feng silently took back what he had just said. He shouldn't have said that. Early this morning, only one person from an Anbu team returned, and they were ambushed by an unknown ninja. Nara said quickly. Upon hearing this, Feng was very calm. "It was done by the Sand Village, right?" Nara dear was stunned for a moment and asked in surprise, "How did you know?" Afterwards, people were sent to search there. Although there was no direct evidence, it indirectly pointed to the Sand Village. "It's very simple." Keed sighed. "They did not participate in the First Ninja World War. In terms of strength, they are only below Konoha. but due to their geographical location and scarce resources, they are developing very slowly. If we want to break this situation, we can no longer think about it from within, so we have to look for solutions from the outside. After hearing this, Nara nodded and then asked, "So what do we do?" Xingye Feng smiled slightly, and a hint of fierceness flashed across his eyes. "When friends come, there's wine to drink. When jackals come, there's a shotgun." Chapter 97 Law of Life. In the back mountain of Konoha, Feng Hashino's eyes were deep. A strong wind was whistling around, and the ground beneath his feet was cracking, as if it had endured a tremendous force. Endless chakra poured out like a violent storm, crushing the ground dozens of meters around. Just when his momentum was about to reach its peak, his style suddenly changed, and the originally strong chakra suddenly became gentle. Bright green light spots wrapped around Xingye Feng's body, and a strong vitality burst out from his body. Immediately, a huge vortex formed above his head, and a huge pulling force instantly spread in all directions. The weak natural energy in the air quickly gathered. Little by little, grain by grain, small amounts add up to a lot, and sand piles build a tower. Countless faint, invisible green light spots continuously gathered into Xingye Feng's body, and a powerful and thick warm current suddenly filled his whole body. The cracked ground beneath their feet was affected, and green grass suddenly sprouted from the cracks. Then, it spread at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the lush and fresh plants exuded unparalleled vitality. The dewdrops cling to it, like a newborn baby, pure and peaceful. At first glance, it seems to soothe the restless heart. The vitality gathered, and the green vortex gradually became smaller until it disappeared. At this moment, Xingye Feng only felt that his whole body was full of vigorous vitality, just like a walking pure natural and unpolluted blood bag. If anyone takes a bite of it, it is estimated to be equivalent to a year of practice, just like the flesh of Tang monk. You've given me so many surprises. I didn't expect that in this world, you could actually comprehend the true meaning of life and have a glimpse of the laws of life. Adding the law of space, one person comprehended 3 top laws. Wow, looking at the whole world, it is extremely rare. Zai's extremely surprised voice came from his mind. From her perspective after so many years of existence, she saw that Xingye Feng had such an understanding that she had never seen before. Xingye Feng touched his nose and said, "It's okay. Zai, what's with this strong Versailles flavor?" "HMPH, just be happy in secret." Zai snorted. Ashino Feng chuckled and was also happy for Zai. At the beginning, her voice was ethereal and vivid, which made people's eyes light up. However, if you listen carefully, you can find that there is no emotion at all, just like a machine. Now, as his strength increases, Zai has gradually regained his emotions and his tone has become more lively. Although I have only just begun to understand the law of life, it is already a dimensionality reduction attack for this world. The so-called Six Paths sage had only a shadow of the law of life at his peak, and he didn't even touch the door. Zai's ethereal and graceful voice echoed in my ears like music. Only then did Xingye Feng realize the preciousness of the law of life, but he still had some questions. Except for my laws, I should not be able to beat the Six Paths sage in terms of pure strength. He has only comprehended the basics, but I can actually get a glimpse of the way. A silver bell-like laughter came, as if mocking his ignorance. You have comprehended 3 laws, but you don't even know this. A dark line slid down Xingye Feng's forehead and the corner of his mouth twitched. After laughing, Zai explained, "The laws are engraved in all things in the universe, and every living being can comprehend them. This has nothing to do with strength. Those with weak strength can also comprehend it, but those with strong strength may not be able to comprehend it. What the law values is your own understanding." Xingye Feng spread his hands and said helplessly, "What you said makes me even more confused." Zai was furious. He was so smart all his life, but so confused at this moment. He said he understood the law, but when it came down to it he didn't understand. You really don't know how lucky you are. Never mind. Just know that strength is not the only thing that matters. Seeing this, Hoshino-Kid nodded. After understanding the law of life, I feel like I have endless energy and my vitality is incredibly vigorous. Even the teacher's immortal body can't compare to it. His strength is more solid. After looking at himself, Hoshino-Kid said this. Zai said as a matter of course, that is natural. The law of life is reflected in the word life. The most obvious thing is to strengthen the foundation and consolidate the roots. It can be said that your foundation has now been cleansed to be flawless and as white as jade. The road ahead will be broader and the future will be bright. Zai became more and more excited as she spoke. Only she knew the benefits of having a deeper foundation. The lower your strength, the harder it is to break through, and every breakthrough is like a life and death calamity. The deeper the foundation, the greater the chance of breakthrough and the smoother the journey will be. The whole body is like jade? Hiss. The more you talk, the more outrageous it gets. Xingye Feng shuddered and got goose bumps all over his body. Outrageous? Ha. From now on you will think that I am not talking nonsense. Zai rolled his eyes at him, but didn't say much. The more you know, the more you think. There is a kind of blessing called ignorance is bliss. Just focus on the present and do the things in front of you well. You have to take one step at a time. Time, space, life, I'm quite lucky. As Xingye Feng thought about it, the corners of his mouth raised. After a moment of joy, Xingye Feng quickly calmed down. People are afraid of drifting away, as they will lose their direction once they drift away. Someone come here. After standing for a while, Xingye Feng suddenly said something. Maruboshi Kasuke appeared in front of him in an instant. Since he became Hokage, the original guard team was changed to the Hokage guard team. Another way to call it is confidant, absolute confidant. Currently, there is only Gujai in the guard team. More people means more eyes, so having fewer people would also be beneficial. Kasuke, go tell Hiruzen and Danzo to step up their war preparations and speed up the mining of ore. Hoshino-Kid said seriously, instantly entering the role of Hokage. Previously, the Hyuga and Akimichi clans were asked to explore the mineral veins and continue to search. Finally, 2 super-large mineral veins were found, both of which were the type that Konoha urgently needed. It has to be said that the richness of resources in the Fire Nation crushes the other 4 nations. Of course, it is also fortunate that resources such as mineral veins are not yet valued, and at most they are used to make equipment and tools. The remaining basic usage is very small, and no one is actively trying to monopolize it. Also, tell Lui that except for the necessary spies, all other Anbu should be recalled. Maruboshi Kasuke's expression was stern, and the deep meaning behind these orders made him shudder. It's not that he knows nothing. He heard that some Anbu members were attacked and killed some time ago. It is said that the Sand Ninja acted secretly, trying to cut off the source of information, but failed in the end. When he thought of this, Gujai suppressed his inner speculation, nodded, and disappeared in an instant. Xingye Feng narrowed his eyes, as if he remembered something, and couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. The Sand Village will serve as the nutrients for Konoha's growth. Chapter 98. The Whirlpool Country is in danger. Konoha attacks. Half a year later, the situation in the ninja world became increasingly serious, and even ordinary villagers could sense that something was wrong. Just a few days ago, Konoha unilaterally announced that it would restrict the entry and exit of caravans and reduce the flow of people. Although it was sudden, there were not many voices of opposition, as if everyone had agreed. The atmosphere became visibly tense, and every household was on edge. The Hokage building worked all night long without stopping for a moment. Hoshino-Kid was secretly preparing for war and accumulating resources and strength. If he wasn't there, the next development would probably be Konoha passively attacking and fighting against the Sand Ninja. But now everything has changed. Xingye Feng had ordered secret development long before the war broke out. If the Sand Ninja dares to invade, he will be given a heavy blow. Just as Konoha was preparing for war, a piece of news suddenly disrupted everyone's mood. The Whirlpool country is in danger. After learning the news, Feng Xingye held an emergency meeting to discuss solutions. Looking at everyone gathered again, Xingye Feng knocked on the table and said seriously, "The Whirlpool country has been invaded by the other 4 countries. According to the intelligence, it can no longer hold on. As an ally of the Whirlpool country, Konoha must show an attitude and cannot remain silent and play dead." The implication is obvious. Xingye Feng will not sit idly by, and will even take the initiative to send troops to help. Everyone looked at each other, making eye contact, but no one spoke. They all felt that it was unwise to send troops at this time, as it would consume Konoha's strength in vain and was not worth it. But everyone present was smart, so they naturally understood the hint and would not refuse outright. Seeing that no one spoke, Nara sighed, feeling helpless and tired. These people still hold on to the old ideas. Don't they know that times have changed? It's not a matter of life and death, so just say it out. Hokage-sama, I do not agree with sending troops. Nara made his attitude clear. He was looking at Konoha as a whole. Even though Konoha is the strongest, rashly sending troops to help will not bring anything back for Konoha. The land of whirlpools is far away from Konoha. Even if we send troops now, it won't change anything. It may even start the Ninja World War ahead of time. It's not worth it for us, and it might even disrupt our plans. His attitude was firm, and Narashika made his words clear, explaining the pros and cons to everyone. His words were also what everyone thought, and they couldn't help but nod. After saying that, everyone looked at Xingye Feng again, wondering if Luyi's words could change Xingye Feng's mind. What about others? Do they have the same idea? Xingye Feng asked again, wanting to see if there were any different opinions. There was silence, and everyone remained silent. At this time, Hadake Sakumo, who was standing by the window, suddenly said, "Hokage-sama, I think sending someone from Konoha is a good way to achieve the best of both worlds." Xingye Feng motioned for him to continue. "What do you mean?" As the head of the Anbu, Hadake Sakumo usually has a low presence and hardly speaks, but no one will ignore him. Just because he controls the most powerful department in Konoha, no one dares to underestimate him. The alliance between Konoha and the land of whirlpools started during the time of the first Hokage, and it has remained the same until now. First, if Konoha doesn't send anyone, it will damage Konoha's image and make people think that Konoha is untrustworthy. Secondly, judging from the distance, even if we rush to the Whirlpool country, it will have been destroyed, but Konoha can take over the remaining Uzumaki clan. This way, the Uzumaki clan will still exist in the world, the covenant will not be broken, and Konoha's strength will increase. It can be said that it kills 2 birds with 1 stone, with benefits and no harm. Every word that Hadake Sakumo said made Hoshino Kid happier. Even Narashikachi didn't think of this. What Sakumo said is exactly what I was thinking. Hoshino Feng was very pleased. Sakumo had a long-term vision, and what he said really touched his heart. Everyone looked left and right, and Uchiha Kitajima took the lead in expressing his attitude. Konoha should send troops. Old fox. Everyone cursed inwardly, and then agreed, fearing that they were too late. As soon as the Nara deer digested what had just been said, he nodded and said, "If that's the case, then it would be very advantageous for Konoha to send someone." Seeing this, Hoshino Kid made the decision directly. In that case, Hadake Sakumo and Uchiha Kitajima will lead the team to the land of whirlpools. Later, I will write a personal letter for you to take to the chief of the Whirlpool Nation to explain my purpose. From what I know about him, he will not disagree when the life and death of the tribe is at stake. Hadake Sakumo nodded and said, "Yes." Uchiha Kitajima was overjoyed. He did not expect that Hoshino Kid would let him join the team. This is a good sign, showing how much the starry Feng values Uchiha. The other families all had envious looks on their faces. The importance of this assignment was self-evident. But who made him the first one to agree? After the meeting, the two rode at full speed, quickly gathered the team, and then headed straight for the Whirlpool Kingdom. Hoshino Kid stood on the top of the Hokage building, looking at their departing figures from afar, his eyes deep, and muttered to himself, "I hope the fate of the Uzumaki clan can change." Then he turned around and said, "Master's wife has been listening outside for so long, why didn't she come in?" There was one person missing from the meeting just now, and he was the person who should not be missing. Uzumaki Mido slowly walked over and said with a gentle smile, "Because I know you won't sit idly by, and the Uzumaki clan will definitely return to Konoha." Xingye Feng laughed and said, "Master's wife really trusts me." Then he paused and said, "But the Whirlpool country will no longer exist. And there won't be any more in the future. You should know this, Master's wife." Why did the four great nations attack the land of whirlpools? It was for the advanced sealing technique. In the ninja world, sealing techniques are special and each village's sealing techniques are extremely rare. Ever since the first Hokage distributed the tailed beasts to other villages, sealing techniques have become even more precious. The land of whirlpools possesses the most sophisticated sealing technique in the entire ninja world, but its strength is too weak. Isolated overseas and far away from the mainland, the country's overall strength is too poor. It is simply a piece of fat meat. Being invaded is only a matter of time. Uzumaki Mido looked gloomy and sighed. "I have told my father many times to let the tribe members learn ninjutsu, but the concept is deeply rooted in their minds and cannot be shaken off. Having a sophisticated sealing technique but no power to protect it would be a huge disaster for the tribe." Ultimately, this led to the current situation. Xingye Feng deeply agrees with this. If you want to have an equal dialogue with others, you must have the strength to match them. Dignity is earned through fighting, not blindly tolerating. The Whirlpool country does not strive for progress and sticks to the rules, so its destruction is only a matter of time. Now, it has just come true. Although the Whirlpool country is gone, the Whirlpool clan is still there, and that's enough. Uzumaki Mido was feeling scared but also feeling relieved. At least, the country is destroyed, but the people are still there. Chapter 99, Surrounded by the Strong, the Third Raikage. A few days later, Haddock Sakumo and Uchiha Kitajima arrived at the land of whirlpools, both with serious looks. I'm still late. I didn't expect them to fight so quickly." There were corpses all over the ground. Judging from their foreheads and clothing styles, 90% of them were ninjas and civilians from the land of whirlpools. Haddock Sakumo squatted down and took a closer look at the fatal wound, which was caused by lightning release. This kind of lightning style should be a cloud ninja. After a simple assessment, Haddock Sakumo's eyes darkened. No matter how hard he tried, he still couldn't catch up. Uchiha Kitajima frowned, then opened his Sharingan. 3 Magatama appeared, and a cold aura emanated from his body. There is a strong reaction of chakra ahead. Upon hearing this, Haddock Sakumo made a gesture, then lowered his body and moved towards it from the side. Looking forward beyond the dense grass, there is an open plain, and directly in front is the last line of defense of the Whirlpool country. The Uzumaki ninjas still held their ground stubbornly, but the four-nation alliance was clearly much stronger and did not give them even a moment to rest. The purpose of using a rotation battle and attacking in turns is to consume their physical strength and win at the lowest cost. The situation is not good. This should be the last defense of the Uzumaki clan. Uchiha Kitajima watched carefully. A rough look at the strength of the ninjas in the Whirlpool country can give you a rough idea of their strength. Compared with the elite Shikoku ninjas, the gap is obviously too big. They can hold on until now thanks to the terrain that is easy to defend and difficult to attack. Can you see clearly how many people are left in the Uzumaki clan? Hadake Sakumo asked in a deep voice. Uchiha Kidajima counted carefully and replied, "It is estimated that there are about 100 people, but I can't tell the exact situation. The Sharingan's advantage is in actual combat and illusion, but it cannot compare to the Byakugan in terms of observation." Hearing this, Hadake Sakumo immediately turned his head and looked at someone in the team. "Humikawa, go check on the Uzumaki clan's situation. By the way, check who has come from other ninja villages." Hinata Humikawa nodded, and terrifying meridians appeared around his eyes, and a pair of pure white eyes appeared. The vision within 1 kilometer is extremely clear, just like having X-ray vision. "Captain, the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist Village have arrived, the Raikage of the Cloud Village has come in person, and the Rock Village and the Sand Village have both sent several elite jonin." After observing for a while, Hinata Kumikawa was extremely shocked. This lineup was too powerful. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva and looked at Hadake Sakumo. When Uchiha Kidajima heard this, his heart sank, and he felt extremely stressed. Even the Raikage has come out in person. It seems like they are determined to win. "Sakumo, what should we do?" All eyes were focused on Hadake Sakumo, and to be honest, he was also under a lot of pressure at the moment. Every cage is not someone to be trifled with. They are the ones standing at the pinnacle of the ninja world. Hadake Sakumo didn't dare to guarantee that he could defeat the Raikage, not to mention that there were people from other villages around who might not interfere. But now the arrow is on the string and it has to be shot. After forcing himself to calm down, Hadake Sakumo took a deep breath, and then his whole body became extremely sharp, like an unparalleled sword about to be unsheathed. He said in a deep voice, "Let's go out." "Everyone!" Exclamation. Hinata Kumikawa widened his eyes, thinking he had heard wrongly. "Minister, you are kidding me." Uchiha Kidajima frowned and asked in confusion, "Sakumo, if we go out now, it's clear that we have 2 fists and 4 hands." Everyone agreed with Kidajima's words, but Hadake Sakumo shook his head and looked at them. "No, hiding here is unwise. Have you forgotten what we are here for? Hokage-sama wants us to bring back the remaining members of the Uzumaki clan. Hiding will only cause more conflict." Hinata Kumikawa scratched his head, a look of question marks on his face. Uchiha Kidajima glanced at him thoughtfully, then continued, "So, you want to convince me with reason? But don't forget, war is never lenient, you and I both know that." Hadake Sakumo chuckled, a cold look flashed in his eyes, and he rubbed his white teeth with his fingers and said coldly, "No, the correct way is to use force first and courtesy later. Strength is the basis for speaking." Uchiha Kidajima's mouth twitched. After saying so much, he still had to fight, but it was always a method. "Let's go." Hadake Sakumo rushed out first, showing his figure, and walked out in a swagger. The others looked at each other and followed. Uchiha Kidajima hid his Sharingan, his eyes were sharp, his aura was ready to be unleashed, and a strong murderous intent was brewing in his heart. He could see the movements of Konoha's group at a glance. Hadake Sakumo walked in front, his fierce momentum seemed to break through the sky. The ninjas around felt their eyes soar at the sight, as if a short blade had pierced their eyeballs. Such undisguised behavior immediately aroused their vigilance. "Hadake Sakumo, I didn't expect it to be you," the 3rd Raikage said in a buzzing voice, his strong muscles covering his whole body, as if they were made of steel, extremely hard. "I can't help it. The Whirlpool country is Konoha's ally, so the Hokage specially asked me to come here." Hadake Sakumo raised his eyes and responded calmly, looking in other directions out of the corner of his eye. Even as the two were talking, they were surrounded, and it seemed that they were going to be annihilated right here in one fell swoop. The 3rd Hokage, Hashino keyed when he was mentioned. The Raikage's eyes lit up with fighting spirit, eager to compete with him. "HMPH." A contemptuous voice came, interrupting the conversation between the two. Hadake Sakumo looked in the direction of the voice and saw a man with yellow hair, wearing a Kirigakure Anbu mask, with a look of disdain on his face. So what if he's the third Hokage? He's nothing but trash in front of me, Kurasan Kashimaru said arrogantly. His words caused everyone in Konoha to glare at him angrily. Asshole! What did you say? You little Jonin, you actually insulted the Hokage. You are just a kid who hasn't even grown all his hair yet, and you have such high aspirations that you want to be compared to the Hokage. How dare you? Everyone in Konoha cursed angrily. Every word was full of real hurt, and they kept mocking. How dare a Jonin compete with a Kage? He's just sitting in a well and looking at the sky. He has no idea what he is talking about. Exclamation. Uchiha Kitajima narrowed his eyes, calculating the consequences of killing him. Kurasan Kashimaru just sneered at this, isn't it? The Hokage didn't dare to come here in person, so he sent an unknown person. It's no exaggeration to say that he is a coward. Even his teammates couldn't stand what he said. The watermelon mountain pufferfish ghost frowned and said, "That's enough. Do you know what you are talking about? If it doesn't hurt, listen Chuanwen doesn't care." "Oh, I just told the truth. How can this be wrong?" The Raikage folded his arms and looked on coldly. The first bird to stick its head out gets shot. It would be great if there was someone to help test it out. It's a good opportunity to see where Konoha's bottom line is. Chapter 100. Harmony is the most important thing. Kurasan Kashimaru looked at the Konoha ninja in front of him with disdain, with the corner of his mouth slightly raised. Just as he was about to utter another sarcastic remark, suddenly all the hairs on his body stood up. It felt like being stared at by a ferocious beast, really creepy. The ninja's instincts surged into his mind like a tide at this moment, frantically sounding the alarm to him. "Not good," Kurasan Kashimaru cried out in his heart. But before he could make any move, he heard a loud buzz, and a dazzling white light suddenly flashed. There was no time for everyone to react. They only saw the white light rushing towards them like lightning. In a flash, he arrived in front of Kurasan Kashimaru. Then, with a muffled thump, Kurasan Kashimaru flew backwards like a kite with a broken string and fell heavily to the ground. When I came to my senses, I saw Hokage standing there with a white fang in his hand and a cold look in his eyes. Bastard! Biwajuzeng was furious, his blood boiling, and he swung the beheading sword as if it were his arm. He gathered all his strength and rushed towards Hokage with great force, but the gap in strength between the two was too big. Hokage held the white fang across his chest, colliding with the beheading sword and easily blocking it. Clang, metal and iron collide, splashing sparks. Hokage expression was calm, like stagnant water, emitting a cold and mysterious aura that seemed to drag people down. That cold gaze made Biwajuzeng's courage falter. His aura collapsed in an instant and his whole body trembled. The suffocating atmosphere made him feel like a mayfly that could die at any time. "Juso, come back." Seeing this, the watermelon mountain puffer ghost shouted angrily. A startled shout brought Biwajuzeng back to his senses. He gritted his teeth, took a deep breath, broke free, and returned to the camp. The watermelon mountain puffer ghost breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he was back. Then he looked at Hokage and said with a bad look, "Hokage, what do you mean? Are you trying to start a war?" Hearing this, Hokage mouth curled up slightly. He glanced around and said something with a hint of meaning. "Tusk, isn't this caused by war? Or are so many of you here traveling?" After saying this, the watermelon mountain puffer ghost's face turned ashen and he cursed himself in his heart. "That's right, you invaded other countries and you still have the nerve to talk about war. Shame on you. You didn't say a word about invading other countries. This is really eye-opening. Ha ha ha, you are so shameless. I really don't know what you are thinking." Everyone in Konoha burst into laughter, looking at each other with contempt. This is really a case of the thief crying "Stop thief." I have never seen such a shameless person who was the first to provoke a war and even used this as an excuse. Haddock Sakumo looked at them, and a sharp sword force rose up like an overwhelming force, pointing directly at the 7 ninja swordsmen. Let's put the war aside for now. The Hokage of Konoha is not someone you cats and dogs can insult. You can't even beat me, so what qualifications do you have to speak so arrogantly here? Aren't you ashamed? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in Konoha cheered and their morale soared. They defeated the Mist Village and completely destroyed their spirit. The third Raikage said at this time, "Boy, the destruction of the Whirlpool country is a foregone conclusion. You are too late." Haddock Sakumo's eyes fixed, he looked at him and said, "Since it has been destroyed, then what are you still doing here? Are you trying to kill us all?" As he spoke, a fierce sword force rushed out all at once and immediately rushed towards the third Raikage. The sharp sword force turned into countless silver needles, stabbing at him densely. The Raikage laughed loudly, with lightning pulsating on his body. "Interesting. You are demonstrating. Unfortunately, you have found the wrong person." After saying this, violent thunder spread all over his body, and his body, which was like steel, stood firm. The domineering aura instantly shattered the silver needle and rushed towards Haddock Sakumo without losing momentum. Boom boom, Haddock Sakumo directly bore the aura of the representative shadow and felt his blood boiling. He was not afraid, but excited instead. The ground beneath his feet cracked, rocks flew everywhere, and lightning flashed from time to time, pressing down on him until his face turned red. Just when Haddock Sakumo was about to give up after gritting his teeth, the third Raikage suddenly withdrew. So strong. Haddock Sakumo's heart sank. Since he started practicing, apart from Hashino Kid who could directly suppress him, the third Raikage was the only one who could make him feel pressured. With such strength, he is worthy of the name of Shadow. Moreover, he seems to be a battle maniac who feeds on fighting. He is really a terrifying man. Haddock Sakumo, right? The Raikage said. "I've remembered your name. You will surely become famous in the ninja world in the future." The cage of a village has spoken, which shows how much he values Sakumo. Perhaps, after today, all the villages will study him. "You're too kind, Raikage." Haddock Sakumo took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and said, "He will get this honor himself, instead of relying on someone else." The Raikage also sensed his thoughts and smiled heartily. "You have a bright future. Konoha is so lucky. With the emergence of Feng, Xingye, and you, this village is truly blessed by God." Haddock Sakumo retorted, "No, Konoha is what it is today because of everyone's hard work." Hearing this, the Raikage nodded. Indeed. The conversation between the two was totally off topic, which left the others confused. "Shouldn't we have a big battle now and wipe out the Uzumaki clan in one fell swoop? Why are we talking about it now?" "Lord Raikage, should we?" A cloud ninja whispered beside the Raikage. He looked at the ninja of Konoha, and the meaning was self-evident. They have the advantage now. As long as the Raikage gives the order, they will attack in groups and will definitely kill all the Konoha members here. Unexpectedly, the Raikage shook his head, looked deeply at Haddock Sakumo, and said in a deep voice, "No, let's go. The matter of the Whirlpool country ends here." The Raikage's words instantly made the Kumo ninja freeze in place, not understanding why. "Lord Raikage." Why? Before they could finish, the Raikage gave them a quick glance and instantly silenced them. In the Cloud Village, the Raikage words are the law and no one will resist. Even if they were unwilling, they had no choice but to swallow it back. Afterwards, the Raikage returned to the village with his troops and spoils. After such a long battle, the Cloud Ninja village made a fortune and at least obtained the sealing technique. Seeing the Cloud Ninjas retreating, the remaining ninja village looked extremely unhappy. Without the Kumagakure and the Raikage, almost no one present could be a match for Haddock Sakumo. Everyone saw his move just now. With that kind of strength, he was able to withstand the overwhelming momentum of the Raikage. If we ask ourselves honestly, we cannot defeat them one by one, and staying here will only be futile. The others looked at each other, all intending to retreat. There is a big gap in top combat power between the two sides, so there is no need to make unnecessary sacrifices. Immediately afterwards, the coalition forces withdrew from the Whirlpool country, and a situation that should have led to a war was broken up in such a muddle. All right, legends, that's it for today. If you're ready for the next chapter, smash that like button and flood the comments right now. Remember, we've got 3 days to prove this story needs to continue. Subscribe so you don't miss the drop, and I'll meet you in the next audiobook.